four of my other closest pals, and getting to see Eli Keeler, coming out of a long retirement. Actually, you came out of retirement at the draft show, but a long one-on-one retirement. I'm very excited to be here. This is an unreal cast. A lot of good stuff to talk about. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. So
welcome back, Eli Keeler.
Super happy to be here, guys. It's been it's been at least 2 full years since I've been a part of a one-on-one show. Wow, which is crazy to think about. But if we're reminiscing so early into the show, I remember doing one of these like freshman year. That first one was 3 years ago. I remember I used to get nervous for these, especially for like casts like this. We do this like 4 times a week.
Yeah,
we're just sitting on the couch.
That's so true.
We're just having fun.
We do it like 4 times a week. We're just talking sports, and we're gonna do
Bill,
that.
another man down. I just lost Wi-Fi for a second.
Yeah,
but we're back.
I'm still not back, but I could scroll through the rundown and talk about what it is that we're gonna talk about. So all is good. No worries about that.
Never worried.
How the show is going to break down. We're going to start with the Knicks in our next segment following this first break. They advanced on to round 2, legendary matchup on the way against the Boston Celtics. Do the Knicks make it out of the second round this year? I don't know. Probably their tallest task of the last 3 seasons that they've been in the second round. Following that, we'll talk about the NHL playoffs a little bit. Lots of action going on there as the first round wraps up just about around the entire league. We're heading into the second round of the NHL playoffs. Nick Palmer, Lou Orlando, they will cycle in onto the show. Talk about New York Rangers' new head coaching hire and Mike Sullivan. Nick Palmer's not New York Islanders. They didn't make it. But LA Kings made it, and they lost, unfortunately. Nick Palmer will dissect the Kings season here by way of the funeral. Following that break,
wear black, everyone, please.
We will have a pre-recorded video by James Burley and Tucker Austin wrapping up the season that the Devils had as they lose to the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round of the playoffs. Their season is over now. A 35-minute spot for that segment. Following that, we'll talk about the Rangers' hire of Mike Sullivan a little bit more specifically. A lot of NHL in the bulk of this show. Big news going around throughout the league, playoffs or not. Then we'll switch gears back to the NBA. We'll talk about the playoffs as a whole, 2 Game 7s. You got Nuggets, Clippers tonight, and then the Rockets forcing Game 7 last night against the Golden State Warriors. 2 really good series against 4, I should say there's really 4 very interesting teams in those 2 series, no doubt. Talk about LeBron and Luka Doncic a little bit as the Lakers get eliminated by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Then, as our last sports segment, I should say sports-specific segment, we'll talk about the MLB, what's going on, Yankees-Mets, around the league as the first month wraps up. Aaron Judge, Pete Alonso, players of the month in their respective leagues, a lot of New York representation. And we'll finish this show with a little bit of a mixed bag, but we're also going to play a little bit of a quiz. And we'll show you on the screen on a fun website that we spend a lot of those hours, as you guys were talking about, on the couch.
Another thing that we do probably 4 times a week. Maybe not as much recently as it's got more busy. But there was a point in the semester where we were doing this about 4 times a week. So. For
sure. Sporkle.com, great.
Please sponsor us.
Yes. Send us to SporkleCon, Chicago. August, right?
I forget. It's
one of those summers.
Yeah,
it's in August. Shout out Lou Orlando for the information. But in August, SporkleCon, that would be really dope. But that's the show for you. We're going to break it all down in the next 3 hours. But before we head into break, we still have some time here. Let's talk about those New York Giants. We're not going to talk about them a ton throughout the show, but one of their first round picks, Abdul Carter, goes 3rd overall at Penn State. Some number controversy. Controversy is a little strong. That's a strong term. I think it's just some bold takes for what number he wants to wear. Started with trying to pry away the big 5'6" from Lawrence Taylor. Got shot down. That's not happening. Some renderings of Phil Simms potentially wanting to give him number 11 because number 11 was his number at Penn State. Don't think that's going to happen, but guys, what are your thoughts? What number should he wear? Should he take one of these numbers? He's not getting 56. Should he wear 11, or should he take LT's advice and just pick his own number and create his own legacy?
You look at any legend in sports. I mean, I'm obviously extremely biased, but the number 12 meant nothing to the Patriots before Tom Brady wore it, and there's a reason. It's because you kind of have to create that legacy for yourself. I don't see it as like a disrespectful move that like he wants to like wear these numbers. Like or the only number that he really outwardly was like, oh, can I wear this is LT's 56. But then there was obviously the dialogue about Phil Simms' number 11. And I don't see it as like anything disrespectful. Like it's clear it's probably more of a homage than anything, and like being inspired to want to wear that number. But at the same time, it's like this is, you're going to like start your own legacy in the NFL. Any legend, that number meant nothing at one point, and it was as important as the person wearing it made it. So to me, I think because of all the excitement surrounding, his entry into the NFL, and especially how excited Giants fans were with the pick, like the fact that the consensus was pretty straight positive across the board, like we got our guy, this is who we needed to draft. I don't think there's any reason why he shouldn't be taking his own number, rolling with it, and building something with it, and kind of starting his own legacy. Because LT is also crazy. That's crazy shoes to fill. That could be the greatest defensive player in the history of the NFL right there. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it put a little bit of a sour on his draft. Not like anything significant. He's still going to be a dog, but it was just kind of, I thought it was personally unfortunate to see that. You always want to see a guy come out and make his mark. But I will say, like, there are instances where it does make sense. Like, LeBron chose 23 because of Michael Jordan. Those are the biggest shoes you could possibly fill, and he filled them. Now, there's a difference. LeBron never played for the Bulls. So, like, I think it's when it's the same team, there's definitely, it's more complicated. And there's more of, like, a directly, like, everybody's going to think LT when they think Abdul Carter if they were to wear the same number. Whereas, like, LeBron's his own guy, different team, etc. They both wore 23 at one point, but it's not really that big of a deal. So I do think Abdul Carter should go with his own number. It's a different situation, but it's not super outrageous.
I compare it to what we saw last year, and Ray Flaherty, a name that I think definitely none of us on this show today knew about in New York Giants history, played a very, very long time ago. Malik Neighbors gets his number unretired by the blessing of the family, saying, hey, yes, Malik can wear this number, and I think he definitely lived up to that. This is no disrespect to Ray Flaherty whatsoever, but we're talking about two numbers that have formed the face of the Giants franchise in the Super Bowl era.
For sure.
Outside of Eli Manning and others, they started it. Phil Simms, LT, started what is one of the more successful, even albeit not the last 10 years or so, but one of the more successful franchises in terms of Super Bowl victories since Super Bowls became a thing. And that was one of the better teams of their time, too. Those Giants teams, those Giants defenses as well. So you're kind of flirting with fire a little bit. And I don't blame Lawrence Taylor to have the response that he did. If I had the kind of career that Lawrence Taylor had, I probably would have said something along the same lines. Like, yeah, I'm known as one of the best defensive players, if not the defensive player of all time. I did that. Like, that's my number kind of thing. But you're that good, you can make your own legacy too. So Phil Simms, I think, is a little bit different because he offered it. Abdul Carter didn't go out and say, yeah, can I wear that number?
Right.
But I still think when it comes to two guys of that magnitude, where I would say a majority of the fan base now was alive, no matter how old they were, to see them dominate the NFL for that 5-year stretch that they did, it just wouldn't have worked out. It wouldn't have worked out. That would have been very controversial. And wow. Oh, man. Crazy. My apologies. I lost my train of thought. A lot of that the fan base is around for those numbers to be in play. Like, that's LT's number, that's Phil Simms' number. No one else should wear that. Abdul Carter, not to say that he wouldn't be great, he needs to be really, really great if he were to wear 56, though.
Well, yeah, because also any team with an amount of, like, a significant amount of history, like, it's not like every single number retirement in a team's history is like this larger than life figure. Like there's people who get their numbers retired for various reasons. So it's also a matter of like it's kind of like what you said, where it's not like you have to show a baseline level of respect for every person who has ever got their number retired, because that's a monumental feat and something that very few athletes in the course of professional sports history actually get to see done to their jersey number. But then there's also kind of a hierarchy in jersey number retirements.
For sure.
And I just think it's a very, very big ask, even though it was done respectfully. And I also think LT denied it incredibly respectfully. Like it was a constructive, like no, like this is mine, but like you should also want to go take your own New Jersey number and make it go get it retired. Like that's essentially kind of what the message he was sending. But yeah, I think I'm somebody who I would say stay away from retired numbers altogether. I understand if you have like a deep connection to a certain number, like in some cases it worked, like with Malik Neighbors. Like there's cases in which, like, you know what, you wanted the number, you asked, it was the right family that wanted to give that blessing, and that's completely fine. But I just think it's an enormous ask. Like this could be LT could be the greatest to some, he's the greatest defensive football player in the history of the NFL. It's not just, oh, he might be the greatest number retiree of the Giants. Like this is a Mount Rushmore of defensive players type player. And I think it's just an incredibly large ask before you've even taken your first training camp snaps.
It's also like, it's not like you wore that number in college.
No.
Like there's no grant. Like if you came out and were like, yo, Phil Simms, like I get like that would make more sense.
Sure.
You're a Giants
Oh,
great,
for sure.
But I love 11. Maybe I still think that's a big ask. 'Cause that's Phil Simms, but that's an understandable ask. 56 just makes no sense. Like,
yeah.
If I'm Abdul Carter, I'm picking a number as soon as possible and ending this.
Yeah.
Because if you just prolong this process,
so stupid.
It is a little silly.
It's gonna start.
It's a little silly, and then it's gonna start these not great narratives in the New York market.
So true.
And
those stick
he's
in New York.
really, really. The longer you drag this out, you need to play. You need to be defensive rookie of the year,
and it's
you just have to.
And it's gonna extend a media cycle that no one is asking for.
And that's
you don't need it.
It's a stupid thing about like New York specifically, big markets. New York specifically is stupid little stories are really sticky.
Yeah.
And they get you into just dumb situations.
They're like micro fractures that end up being really big in glass.
I like that. That's great. Like you saw it with like Odell, just like little post game comments, a little tackle of the net, all these things, and it's like, oh, he's not a locker room guy.
Builds up,
Yeah.
and then you get traded.
And then you're gone.
Exactly. Just like Odell's a prime example of that.
Yeah.
You hit some kind of height, one little thing it's a little misstep, and then another one, and then it just spirals out of control, and then you're a Cleveland Brown. So you just don't want that to happen whatsoever. One more note on this before we head to our first break, and then we'll advance and talk to the Knicks as they advance. What number is Jackson Dart going to wear? I think he's going to wear 2 because that was Drew Lock's number, right?
I
He's
like
gone.
that.
Yeah.
I
think
also
2 makes
love
sense.
2. Like that's
I think
fun.
that's a dope
Yeah.
number.
Right?
I think that's an awesome
that cool?
number. Yeah.
That's also like that has a lot of room for marks to be made on that number.
Yeah.
He could do a whole lot with that number, and that is Jackson Dart's number.
Yeah, absolutely. Abdul Carter has the same grounds where he can just pick a number. In the 50s, in the teens, it's got to be one of those 2 categories, though. I don't think it can be anywhere other from 50 to 59 or from 10 to 19. He's got to wear a number in those 2 ranges there. But
I would love a teen. That would be
teen
I
would be
think
really
it'd be
cool.
tough. I think it'd be
Teen
really
would be
cool.
really
especially
cool.
as like one of the defense players making mark on a teen. That's not super common. That would be cool.
Yeah, and then you have a 0 and a 5 and a teen and a 97.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's gonna look so cool. Or you can join Bobby and wear a number in 50s. He's great too. But hopefully the number controversy does come to an end once again. Strong word to use. It's not really a controversy. You just don't want it to get to that point. But with that being said, we'll wrap up our Giants segment here, talking numbers. Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, Giants hit it out of the park with that draft. In my opinion, I think all of us can agree.
Yeah,
Giants
they
did
sure
a great job.
Oh yeah.
They absolutely did.
Hopefully that translates to the gridiron. We'll just have to wait and see, though. We'll head to our first break. When we come back, Knicks' second-round date with the Boston Celtics. Electricity. Celtics 4-0 against the Knicks. Can the script be rewritten? We'll talk about it here on 1-on-1.
What's up, everyone? I'm Will Tallant.
And I'm Evan Harkin. We're two of your hosts for NFL Friday, WFUV Sports' exclusive NFL podcast.
From breaking down the weekly slate to fantasy football pickups, we've got you covered on all things around the NFL.
Stay tuned for our hosts' weekly picks as they compete against each other all season long.
Football is here, and so is NFL Friday.
New York's longest-running sports call-in show. We're back here as Jack Warner and Eli Keeler go tween, little hez, cross,
Little step through, wake up the neighbors.
step, midi, let's play defense. New York Knicks basketball, really great time. It's a really great time to be a Knicks fan.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. They take on the Detroit Pistons, win in 6 games. A series, in my opinion, that was, as advertised, was going to be close. The Pistons played pretty well against the Knicks throughout the regular season, and they definitely showed that through the 6-game set. All of these games were relatively close. I would say with the exception of Game 1, still only an 11-point game. That's Game 1. That's in the Garden.
And it also close through like till the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they went on that 21-0 run.
It required a freakish run in the fourth quarter to take the game over. So really, they were all close. I don't think the score even really properly reflected how that game broke down at all, or how improbable that win was.
And the Knicks win in 6 games. Ahead of this series, I thought it was going to go 7, 6. I was up there in 6 as well. A lot of people counted out the Knicks once again. So the Pistons were going to take this one. It was going to be the upset of the NBA playoffs to start in the first round. Not the case. They win in 6 games. Jalen Brunson with, yet again, a very poetic and, what's the word? Just defining moment of his Knicks career. Destroys Asar Thompson. Sends him flying. I'll give him credit. Asar Thompson comes back and played pretty good defense. But the shot went in and the Knicks win by 3. That was an unbelievable game, especially down the stretch there. Jalen Brunson's 3 will go down as a moment from these playoffs for the Knicks, kind of like DiVincenzo's 3 against the Sixers last season. But this is what makes this Knicks team very fun over the last 3 years. They have moments. They have different moments that they just weren't a thing for the last 10 years since Melo, really.
True.
And the only moments they had was that they would get a really high lottery pick and probably screw it up. And we're not there anymore. They've made the playoffs 3 straight years, 4 of their last 5 seasons. They made it to the second round 3 years in a row. Now it is time to get out of the second round. But before we talk about the second round, thoughts, reactions, anything you got. Start with you, Jack, because you do follow the Pistons a lot more than we do. But Thoughts on this series, though?
Well, actually, I was just about to say, just to start with the Brunson shot, I actually want to pass it to Eli first. I think that's the only thing that's fitting.
Let's do it.
I appreciate that, man. That's one of those shots, even if we lose the Celtics, whatever. It's imprinted on the back of my brain forever.
That was
Love it.
unreal.
Love it.
That was like,
It was one of those moments.
and it's what really spoke to me, what was really special about this, and this is credit to Azar Thompson. Azar Thompson is a really good defender.
Yeah, he can play.
And he did. Look, Brunson is incredibly hard to guard for. This is his second year, rookie year, I forget. For him being so young to step up in the playoffs and do a pretty dang good job of guarding Jalen Brunson, I do want to give him his flowers.
I'll say he put the clamps on him literally the possession before.
Yeah.
Game
But-
5, too, also, Brunson only had like 16 points.
Yeah.
Clamped up.
What I will say, this is one of my favorite segues that we like to do. It reminds me of a quote from Moneyball.
We have a phone caller, guys. Carl
We'll get
Anthony
back to that.
on the line. Carl Anthony, what's up?
What's up,
How's
Carl
it
Anthony?
going?
Hey guys, long-time listener, first-time caller,
No, you're not.
and I'm not. I just wanted to say that. I missed it last time. You guys were talking about the Knicks, and the thing I wanted to mention about Jalen Brunson's shot is that, first of all, he's the love of my life after that shot, and I was around for the Knicks when we were hyped for drafting Frank Ntilikina, thinking he was the future.
Well, yeah.
Got his jersey.
Absolutely. I wanted Malik Monk at the
I
time.
have his jersey in my closet, and I just wanted to say, no matter like one of you said, no matter the results of what happens in the Celtics series, like Knicks fans have been through so much that this right now is euphoric. But I still believe that after that series, we do need to improve. Because of this is 3 years in a row now. We should have higher expectations, but I believe that starting next year, I don't know if this was brought up yet, but I think Thibs' job will be put into question if we don't see any improvement over the next year or even in the off season. I feel like the Knicks have to push past this and see what more improvement they can bring to the table.
That's a fair take, Carl Anthony. I've heard that get thrown out a lot. And I think with Tibbs is that he's going to have I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm pushing back slightly. I think that Tibbs has this kind of immunity as a head coach of the New York Knicks
Totally agree.
that no other coach had. Woodside didn't have it. Nobody had it.
David Fizdale.
Fizdale never had it.
Far from it.
He has this kind of immunity because of the prolonged success that we're talking about. Now, that comes with what you're saying. It's time to get out of the second round, and we need at least make the conference finals. It's a conversation. I think his job is completely safe if they do end up losing to Boston, no matter what. You need the offseason. Next year will be very telling, though. Who do they add? What do they add to their scheme? For me personally, if it's Tibbs' job on the line, if they want to advance so he's safe, no star players. You don't need to go out and get a Giannis. You don't need to get a KD. You don't need to get a Jimmy Butler. You don't need another name. You need more guys on the bench. That's not to say that this playoff rotation would expand from 8 to 10, but that 8-man rotation, three of the three guys coming off the bench, you should be able to say they can start in this lineup ahead of our 2 or 3 other regular guys outside of Cat and Brunson, and you could still win by 15. That's why the Celtics are so good.
Guys coming off our bench, I was going to mention the Celtics. Peyton Pritchard should be starters on other teams.
Right, absolutely. The depth is
Landry
unreal.
Shamet is not starting on most teams.
Right.
We need, no disrespect to Landry, but we need an upgrade there.
Yeah.
So Carl Anthony.
You're completely right about that, especially with because of the way this playoffs have been going. Deuce McBride, as much as I love him, he has not shown up to the table. He's not doing his job the way that he should be doing it, and I just think we need to realize that as much as we love these guys, that's the problem with some New York fans. Like, we love our guys so much
get
that we
attached.
just see them go. We have to learn to get detached from them in that way, because I feel like with other New York fans or even Boston fans, they could say, you know what, if you're not doing your job, you shouldn't be here right now. As much as we love you, you're not doing the job. The job is to win championships. The job is not to get to the second round. So I feel like as much as I love these guys, you're definitely right. We don't need to go out to get Giannis or, God forbid, KD. I wouldn't want that at all. But I think that we do need one of those solid bench players that not only can come out of the game, be a sixth man of the year, but I feel like they have to be that leader that we need also, like a leader for the bench too. Because once Brunson isn't in the game, you need someone who's able to take his place there and still like have that same grit or have that same aura, if you will, just to say like, hey guys, we need to keep pushing. This isn't the time to slack, because the amount of times we've had 15-point leads and then Brunson's out of the game and it gets shrink to 2 and he has to come back out.
So true.
It's ridiculous. That should not be happening. You are a professional basketball team. I don't care what happens. And I just don't like that stuff. That's the stuff that I think needs to be fixed.
Carl Anthony, let me ask you then. Let's get a little bit ahead of ourselves. I know we don't want to be in this position at least for another month. That would be preferable as Knicks fans. But an ideal offseason, what would you like to see the Knicks do?
For an ideal offseason, you know, even though I know we're saying we don't need them or anything, but the thing is, I would love to see Giannis on the team. I know that's a long shot. That's one of those things that if it happens, great. If it doesn't, whatever, we're all good. But I feel like something that I would want, I don't even know what the free agency market's going to look like, but I feel like you just have to see what the waters are testing. Maybe you have to trade a couple of guys, see how that works. But I just feel like we need to find maybe those hidden gems. Because, again, Landry like all those guys, they are hidden gems. They have helped us in the regular season. But at that point, when it comes to playoffs, it's not working. We need to change course, because it's ridiculous in that one game with Campaign where he got 3 fouls in a row, couldn't control his emotions, and then doesn't play for the rest of the game. We can't have that, even though that's literally what we signed him for. He's not doing his one job. So I feel like we need to find those hidden gems, even if it's a cheap contract or something. We need to find those hidden gems that are in the offseason that are going to get us over that hump.
I think a Giannis deal could make sense. You'll probably have to give up OG and maybe even Mikal, and then the rest of this decade's first-round picks. And you know, that would be a monster big three. That would be an insane big three. I know Giannis has kind of lost a step on defense, but he's still a really good defender, and the scoring ability is obviously still there. It would make sense for the Knicks, but the one thing that I fear with a Giannis trade is kind of what I feared with Cat. And that is you will sell out to get a big name, and then you are left trying to find the scraps to fill out your roster.
Well, I would say it's already where they are with Mikal, who's not even like a top 5 in the league, top 15 in the league type player. And we were talking about it the other day where it was anytime you see Mikal either not living up to the expectations or not performing to the level that he should be performing, a lot, especially in our apartment, you hear a lot like, we gave 5 first-round picks for this guy.
Yeah. It's like,
you know, I completely agree with that stuff with Mikal, but the thing is, again, it's going to be like one of those things. I feel like the last game, he did erase some of that.
he did.
Yeah. No, that's not anti-Mikal's sentiment.
Like, a great way with it. But you're totally right about what we gave up for him. But the thing with Giannis is, I feel like with Kat, as much as I love him, these big moments for him to be that big center is just a little too much on his plate.
But
where if you get Giannis, it relieves some of that pressure where he can play his game the way he wants to play it.
Carl, you're straying from the program, Carl. Carl, this is already our problem, is that, like, Jalen Brunson is going to have the ball in the last 2 to 4 minutes of the game. Cat got a couple shots. He hit a couple big ones. Jalen Brunson's going to have the ball. Doesn't matter if Giannis is there. Doesn't matter if OG's there. Doesn't matter if Mikal's there. You could have KD. You could have Bill Russell. You could have Kobe. Jalen Brunson, maybe not Kobe. Jalen Brunson is taking this last shot. He's scoring. He's taking a majority of the shots, and he's scoring all the points. The whole point of this team, and you can criticize this offensive theory, The whole point of this team is get Brunson the ball. He's going to you can't guard him. He's going to destroy you. He's going to body you, and he's going to kick. Other people will score, but it's Brunson's offensive game. Now
You're not wrong.
You fill out the rest of the team with defenders.
But you're missing the center part of it because you have. Well, I'm not saying Cat needs to take that final shot because, as we all know, he fouled out in the last like 4 minutes of the game. And what you have there is you have Jalen Brunson with the ball, but you have Mitchell Robinson come in playing as that true center. Where when Jalen made that big shot and Cade comes down the court and misses that layup, I don't think Cat makes that defensive play. That's all Mitch right there. That's at the point you'd say, thank God Cat fouled out because I was forced to make that decision with Mitchell to be in there and be the rim protector that he is. And you also have to remember, this is the best part about Jalen Brunson, where he missed. He went 1 for 10 in the fourth quarter before he made those big shots. So it's obvious that the pressure does not get to him. At that point, he's like, doesn't matter. Give me the ball. I'm gonna make this shot. Like he does not care at one bit. So that's the issue that I have with Cat though, is because this offensive production he's been having is awful. But once you bring in a guy like Giannis, or even if you find another center that can alleviate the pressure, just like the way that the double center with Mitchell has, you need someone who, obviously Mitchell Robinson, as much as I love him, he's not the answer in that sense. Yeah. You need another player who's going to relieve that pressure for Cat, where he can play his game a little better and not have to worry about committing these fouls as a big man or having to take these shots, or not even just shots, having to grab this rebound over 3 other more athletic people. Because as you can see, Jalen Duren was at some points was just baiting him in the paint, where you needed to put Mitchell Robinson out there and sacrifice a guy like Josh Hart or Mikal in order to stop him from what he's doing.
You make a good point. Like I personally love the Cat Mitch on the floor at the same time. I love both of them on the court at the same time. So, but then that's a matter of rotation. That's not necessarily a matter. Like, here's the thing: we just we sent everything we got, and we got Mikal and Cat. We really just gonna take everything we just got, plus OG, send him away for Giannis. Well, that doesn't make any sense.
And that's the thing: the concept of a deal for Giannis of any kind scares me if I'm looking at it from the Knicks' perspective, because one, as Eli mentioned, you look at how much they gave away to acquire Mikal and Cat. And then the other thing you have to consider, the big problem that you always run into with the Knicks, and I think if the Celtics were to win this next series, they would expose, is this lack of depth that has always been a thorn in their side. And I think when you're looking at positions in basketball where you're trying to beef up your depth, I feel like you don't always need the sexiest option at center. You look at the Celtics center tandem, it's Kristaps Porzingis, who is a stud, like a top player in the league, and Luke Cornett. Like it's
playing really well.
2X Knicks. So you look, I feel like you see other teams where their center tandem, their big man tandem, usually all it takes is one star and one serviceable center.
I think it's just put Mitch in the game.
Right, exactly.
That's all it is.
But that's more what I'm getting at is like when you consider how much it feels like the Knicks have already lost or given away to acquire the roster that they have right now, and they're still having depth problems, the idea of bringing somebody in as big as Giannis, or who would require probably as like how much you'd have to give up for Giannis, how much that would require, that scares me a lot when you consider that a lot of people already look at the Knicks as a team that is scarce with resources.
But if I could hop in here for a second, Producer Lou behind the boards. I kind of want to tie this back to Tibbs because I had a question for you guys and Carl Anthony as well. I saw a tweet a few days ago comparing Tom Thibodeau to John Tortorella, the former Rangers coach. And for the non-hockey fans, Tortorella was an old-school hockey coach, very hard on his players, demanded a lot of them physically, really tough on rookies, didn't play them a ton, and got the Rangers to a conference final, and then kind of wore out his welcome, and the production dipped year to year. And he compared that to Tibbs, where he said Tibbs is a great floor raiser. This is FitzGSN_ on Twitter. Good account. But he doesn't have what it takes to lead a team to a championship. And you look at Tibbs with the Bulls, got them to a conference finals once and then never got past the second round. It didn't go great in Minnesota. It's interesting we're talking about depth here with the Knicks because, I mean, listen, remember at the beginning of the season, the Knicks pull off those moves to get Cat and to get McHale. And all I heard was the Knicks are a championship caliber team. There were questions about the depth, but people expected the Knicks to be contending for a championship. Then they watched the season and went, ooh, I don't know. And again, you're talking about depth. Tibbs doesn't even use his depth that much because you're having legitimate critiques right now about if he's using Mitch in the right way. That, yeah, you might get Tibbs' depth pieces, but is he the guy long-term that's going to be able to take a team that clearly has talent to a championship?
I think he could do it. The thing is, it's kind of like a chicken or the egg. Like, obviously, Thibodeau keeps his rotation very tight, very short. But, like, if he had a Peyton Pritchard off the bench.
I was just going to say that.
Like,
Yeah.
that guy is getting minutes. You can't not give that guy minutes.
If you get a guy off the bench that you can confidently say, this guy needs to play 20 minutes in this game, we're having a different discussion.
Tibbs is going to do it.
The Celtics have set the standard as to what your team should look like based on how they won last year.
Peyton Pritchard is slightly better than Landry Shamet.
He's a lot better than Landry Shamet.
But
Got him
even
beat by a little
But
bit.
even you look at the Celtics, like even I would look at Sam Hauser as a more preferable option to Landry Shamet, and that's not even
He kills us. He's a great shooter.
right, and that's not even the bench guy that gets the most movement.
And that's also not the guy the Knicks need. Sam Hauser is a better shooter than Landry Shamet. They effectively do the same thing. They sit in the corner and they shoot.
Yeah,
and they do.
100%.
Peyton Pritchard, you need a Brunson adjacent player, a ball dominant scorer,
And a point creator.
I totally agree. Here's my thing. This is actually okay. This frustrates me because we saw a couple weeks before the playoffs, Brunson's out. Who dominates these games offensively? It was OG Anunoby.
Yep.
And we saw great wins and great production from him. I would love to see him be more ball dominant when Brunson's out of the game. As soon as Brunson leaves the game, OG Anunoby should be getting the ball 90% of the possessions and just driving, shot creating, because we saw him go to work in those last few weeks. And I think that's how the Knicks could beat the Celtics. Otherwise, we're not going to have nearly enough offensive production as soon as Brunson leaves the game. That just leads to Thibodeau forcing Brunson in quicker. Dude's getting tired earlier. It's going to be a disaster. If we can't find that
I think you
offensive
guys completely
creation.
nailed it right there, honestly, because I feel like with the Knicks, if you pay attention, I know we went 0-10 against the top three teams, but a lot of those games were pretty close.
Yeah.
Like even the ones you discard the blowouts, you have games where it's a matter of less than 3 possessions that swung the game against us.
Hang the
You
banner.
have the most recent one against the Celtics where McHale just fumbled the ball, wasn't even looking at it. You have
that was
the games against the Thunder where they were battling until like the last 5 minutes where they just completely fell apart. It's just that's the hump they have to get over to the point where I feel like even though I have my doubts about this series, I just want it to be competitive throughout the whole play. Like if it's competitive, I feel like the Knicks can just go ball for ball with these guys. Like you just have to come in with that mentality that we've always had, where like no matter who we're playing against, we are the better team. Because I feel like they had that mentality against everyone else until they started losing against the top three. Then all of a sudden it became this question where, they can't finish, they can't do the big job, they can't do this, they can't get over that hump. And I feel like that's when the Knicks began to falter. But I feel like the thing is with this team that's different from the last year's team is that I feel like when the going gets tough, we just start leaving. Except for last year's team, I feel like they had a little more grit to them, which I feel like a lot of Knicks fans say. With Dante and Julius, you just have that grit that New York basketball seems to have, that everyone just like is synonymous when you go to play street ball or anything. But I feel like if they can just remind themselves of what that story is for them, if they remind that character for them, if they are a gritty team, even with Cat, you can make fun of Cat all the time. When he starts to wake up and remember that he is a baller, the Knicks have a great chance to win. So as long as they just stay competitive throughout this series, do not hang their head, even if you have Payne Pritchard dropping 30. You have to make sure that you continue to have that grit. Don't let it get past you and play until that buzzer sounds.
That's so true. And if Brunson keeps closing games like he did against the Pistons, this is a super winnable series. All you have to do is keep it close. You need to let Brunson cook the last 2 minutes and D up. And this is a winnable series for the Knicks.
You can't be afraid. They have to just don't be afraid to get physical to the point where, you know what, I don't condone it like this, but you got to be physical to the point where you're both hustling for that ball. Someone may get injured, but you're showing them, no, I want this more than you. I'm putting my body on the line right
true.
now,
Want it.
even if it's just for this. Even if it's just for this little possession right here, because I have to win every possession. That's
one
how
thing
you win the game.
the Knicks do have, is they want it as much as everybody else, I think.
I agree, too. I feel like that's what everyone doesn't think. Like, they don't think that the Knicks want it that bad compared to everyone else. But if you watch the post-game pressers, like, they're calm, cool, and collected, but their words still have meaning. You have Jalen Brunson, who, just like famous New York players of the past, you have Carmelo Anthony, you have Derek Jeter, you have Francisco Lindor. He is calm, cool, and collected. It's not about him. It's about the team. He's not willing to be like, yeah, I'm the guy. I made the shot. I'm number one. No, it's a team effort. I wouldn't have been able to make that shot without my teammates. So as long as they remember that no matter what, even if Jalen's the guy right now, he wouldn't be there without Josh Hart hustling for those rebounds. He wouldn't be there without OG's 2 steals a game somehow, or without Mikal shooting from the mid-range, dropping those efficient 20 points or even 15 points. That efficiency is what's going to allow Jalen to succeed and allow the Knicks to succeed. So I feel like that's really what I'm driving home here with my Knicks. As much as I love them, as much as I've grown with them and everything, I just feel like they have to drive home just those little things, hustling for each possession, not looking lazy, or not once you have a 15-point lead, not letting that get away from you, especially in this series. The Celtics will not allow them. If we do somehow have a 15-point lead, the Celtics are not going to be like, oh, we're going to turn over dead. The Pistons didn't. They had way more grit. You have the Celtics now who they could be down by 30. I feel like Joe Mazzulla would just give them a stare, and all of a sudden they're up by 40.
All very valid points. Carl Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time.
I'll see you at graduation, Carl Anthony.
Thanks, Carl.
Appreciate it, boys.
Absolutely. Knicks basketball, they win in 6 games over the Detroit Pistons. They go on to face the Boston Celtics in round 2. Can they get over the hump? Is it the year for Brunson and Tibbs? We're just going to have to wait and see. It's going to be a very exciting series. This could be a 4-game series. This could be a 7-game series. It has a lot of different potentials with it. But we'll hop into a short break for right now. When we come back, get our first appearance on the camera from Lou Orlando, and Nick Palmer will also make his show debut today as the guys go round table on the NHL playoffs. But if you want to call in, 718-817-2750. That's the number to ring, and ring it right after this short break.
Hi, this is Spiro Ditas, WFUV class of 2001. WFUV is the epicenter of Fordham athletics, with live coverage of Fordham football, men's and women's basketball, and of course, our iconic Saturday show, One on One. So keep your radios locked in right here, 90.7 FM, for all things WFUV Sports.
I just like giving it a second.
Let it fester.
Let it fester. Because these Stanley Cup playoffs sure are festering.
It's a funk playlist.
It is a funk. I
good.
like
It's
when we
quite
go
good.
funk. Been a funky playoff
It has been. A
run.
little funky.
It's a little funky. I don't think the results are necessarily funky. Hi, welcome back to One on One. This is New York's longest running sports call-in show. Nick Palmer and Lou Orlando. These are not the guys who you saw earlier in the show.
different
Those guys are
people.
back there, but we'll keep rotating because we're the puck guys, and Jack Warner wants to stay behind the board, which we love and respect. And he's doing such a great job. Anyway, let's talk about some of these results so far.
We could.
We know how all of the matchups are going to go except for one, which we don't know either of the teams who are going to play in that final one. I'll just run through the results for you very quickly. The Winnipeg Jets and St. Louis Blues are tied at 3, which I didn't certainly see coming. The Stars and Avalanche are tied at 3, which I think if anyone were to say this one's going to 7 from the outset, I would sort of point my finger at that one. Vegas took down Minnesota 4-2, so they will be playing the Edmonton Oilers, who also took down the Kings in 6 games. Then you have Toronto took down Ottawa in 6 games. Ottawa put up a nice fight towards the end of that series. Florida absolutely dominated the Tampa Bay Lightning, and a lot of people
That
have
was
Tampa
shocking.
Bay going deep. Washington takes care of business against Montreal, and Carolina takes care of business against busyness against the Devils. So we have our matchups, Lou. What surprised you the most, I guess, is my first question.
I think Florida. I expected that battle to be the way that Tampa had been playing, the way Vasilevsky had been playing.
Yep.
I expected that to go 6 or 7. I had Florida winning. I'm honestly a little surprised with how down people were on Florida going into the year. I watched a lot of shows going in about, who do people think the Stanley Cup Final is going to be? Who do think people's going to the Eastern Conference Final?
Yeah.
A lot of people had Tampa getting all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, and it had a lot to do with Vasilevsky had returned to form. I just don't think that you could have ever slept on this Florida team, knowing that they were getting Tkachuk back, knowing that they were getting Marchand back, knowing the way that they compete in the playoffs every single year under Paul Maurice. You can't sleep on that team, and I think they showed it. I did not expect that series to go 5, but I think you want to talk round 1 matchups and who you're feeling good about. Florida has to be near the top of that list, and it looks like they're a danger to go all the way back to the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, in my eyes, they're the new Tampa of the East, where it doesn't matter how they're playing going into the postseason. They get there, and those playoff genes kick in, and that team's going to give you a fight. They're going to battle. I mean, they are perfectly built. I mean, you can't dream up a better postseason player than Brad Marchand to add him to that group of guys.
I know.
It's a perfect fit. It's a match made in heaven. I'm sure Jack Warner has thoughts, but I mean, that's such a great deadline get. Masterful job.
They killed it, and you took the words right out of my mouth. It doesn't matter what seed they are going into the playoffs. It hasn't mattered for the last 3 years.
Because I thought they drew one of the toughest round 1 matchups. Honestly, probably that was the toughest round 1 matchup in the East.
Yeah.
Was Tampa. When you look at that, that was the most balanced matchup, and they handled it in 5.
It almost felt like whoever came out of that matchup had the best shot of going to the Cup on the Eastern side. Would that be a fair thing to say?
I'm still curious to see what Washington looks like once they get up against a, let's say, more competitive opponent.
Yeah.
Montreal's kind of ahead of their timeline in terms of making the playoffs, but Washington's been so dominant this year.
Yeah.
I don't think Carolina gives them a ton of trouble, so I think we're looking at a Florida-Washington Eastern Conference Final. And, I mean, Florida should be the favorites there, but I'm curious to see what the Washington playoff experience looks like, the bigger sample size we get.
It's going to be fun.
I think there's more to sink your teeth into with the West. And whether you want to talk about the teams that are still alive, whether you want to talk about one of your dearly departed teams.
No, we can start with the teams that are still alive. How about the St. Louis Blues, man? And how about Connor Hellebuck? What has happened to him? I mean, you look at that series, the games that the Winnipeg Jets are losing, 7-2, 5-1, 5-2. These are not low-scoring games, which is something in a Binner and Hellebuck matchup you would come to expect.
The numbers for Connor Hellebuck in his postseason career, especially recently, are not pretty. Started the career off strong in terms of the first few playoff runs. We're now in 3 straight postseason appearances where the save percentage is well below 900.
Yeah.
886 in 23, 864 in 24. This season, right now, through 6 games, it's 815. He's been the reason in large part that St. Louis has been able to hang around. I don't know if you saw the Jack Adams finalists get announced. There was a lot of clatter online about Jim Montgomery not being there. And it's one of the more impressive coaching turnarounds. This guy got fired this year.
Yeah.
Takes over St. Louis, a team that I think no one was super excited about. They've always kind of been middle of the pack. They hang around. If they make the playoffs, they don't do much. Haven't done much since the Cup final, the Cup win, to be honest. And here they are making noise against the best team in the West.
Hey, man, Jim Montgomery, former Blues player. Maybe he's injecting a little bit of life into St. Louis.
I mean, I have thoughts about the Jack Adams finalists. I thought Dean Evison needed to be there when you look at what Columbus did.
Yes.
After the passing of Johnny Gaudreau, the fact that after Game 81, they were still technically alive and in playoff contention, and if Montreal loses Game 82, they have a chance. It has a chance to be Columbus making a trip to the playoffs. I don't think you can say enough about what Dean Evison did with that group, but Jim Montgomery got the Blues into the playoffs. And again, even felt like once they got there wasn't a lot of confidence. I'm not sure, man. There's something with Hellenbuck where, that carriage turns into a pumpkin once the lights get brighter. And it's because this is back-to-back years where you could argue he's been the best goalie in the NHL, and then you get to the postseason, you get to round one, and he's a no-show.
I know.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Because, again, he's going to go down as one of the greatest goalies of this generation.
Yes, he is a Hart contender this year.
And rightfully so.
Yes.
His number, it's on par with what Igor did a few seasons ago.
Absolutely.
I can't make any sense of it because that we talk about with Igor and some of the regular season struggles of late, or at least regular season inconsistency. The one thing you can hang your hat on is that statistically, and especially with some of the analytics, Igor Shesterkin is like the greatest postseason goalie of the 2010s on. And there are some good names in there, Lundqvist and Carey Price. When you're looking at the goal saves above expected, Vassy as well, the goal saves above expected in the sample size, Igor's the best.
Wow. What's the quick stats on that?
I would have to pull up the I'm blanking on the site. It's it's got puck in the name.
Money Puck?
Money Puck. If you pull up the Money Puck, there's a counting stat, and it's goal saves above expected.
Right.
And despite having significantly less playoff games than a lot of these big-time goalies, Igor is consistently top 2, and if you look at it cumulatively, I think he's number 1.
He's a game stealer, man.
But we're getting lost in the weeds.
We are getting a little lost
with Igor.
But that's okay.
Talk Avs stars.
Yeah, can
man.
I get a prediction? That's what I wanted.
I have
from
the
you.
Avs winning the Cup. But to me, that was such a tough matchup to pick because I think either of these two teams could go all the way. I was a little disappointed with how Dallas's regular season went. I don't think that they were as explosive as I expected them to be, but this is a matchup between two powerhouses that have incredible potential offensively. And you saw it in Game 6, that back and forth. It ends up being a 7-4 game. This was a one-goal game until the final minute. Colorado gets 2 empty netters to make it look a little lopsided. This was, I think, the best game of the postseason. Maybe you want to go to double overtime with Toronto, Ottawa, but this was one of the best games we've seen in this postseason in terms of back and forth, high-scoring offenses, trading blows. I think these two teams are playing at their peak right now. But I think the difference is Colorado's got the home ice.
Colorado's got home ice, but you want to talk about a team playing at their peak, missing Heiskanen and Robertson?
I should say it's Dallas. Dallas is home ice.
Dallas is home ice.
I stand corrected.
And they're playing this well against the Avalanche without 2 of their best players, Heiskanen and Robertson. If they had Heiskanen and Robertson, this series might already be over.
That's a really good point. I think it speaks to Dallas's depth, but you wonder how long they can go without. I would say they're top 4 and they're top defensemen, simply put.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough. I think you can win a series without star power. That's going to build up over time, and I think that hurts Dallas's chances to go all the way here.
So then it's really down to Otter, if you think about it, whether he can steal them the games that they need. Especially one game if you want to move on in this situation.
I think in Game 7, a lot of times it comes down to the goalie and which goalie is going to play better.
Yeah. I have a tough time betting against Ottinger. We are coming to the end of
we talk
this
Kings,
little
please?
segment. I would love to talk Kings. I prepared a whole little thing.
Do you want to do a spiel? Because I have a question for you.
Yeah. I'll answer your question, then I'll do a little spiel. I think we should hit a break. Do you want to hit a break first, Jack, and then do that, or we can keep going?
No, we got time.
We can keep going. All right, lovely. What's your question, Lou?
Hiller and Blake, are they out? As a Kings fan, where are you on this? I've seen a lot of people pushing for them to be gone.
I know. There's what they should do and what they will do. What I think they're going to do is end up firing Jim Hiller and keeping Rob Blake, which I'm not thrilled about, because it's easy, and the Kings often take the easy way out with managerial decisions, at least in the last close to a decade. Because you think about last decade, man, I mean, they were so quick with, like, turnaround on guys. If you weren't getting it done for us, you were gone. Daryl Sutter won us 2 really big cups, and then just a couple years later, he's gone. The Kings were not afraid of that, and now it seems like they are. And this seems like such an easy year to say, point the finger at Jim Hiller. Hey, you made that really bad challenge. You didn't play the guys that you were supposed to play, who were carrying you the entire regular season. It feels like an easy, oh yeah, blame that guy. Rob Blake, you haven't made it past the first round. You haven't won a playoff series in your 8 years as GM, but we're going to ignore that and fire Hiller.
The Blake thing is interesting because I remember talking to you. I was so critical about their offseason.
Yeah.
I thought they got so much worse. I didn't expect them to be a playoff team. And credit to them, they played very well for a large part of this regular season. But I thought losing Matt Roy was a disaster. I didn't like the moves that they made to bring in to replace what they lost.
Yeah.
I think the Dubois disaster still hangs heavy in terms of when you look at Rob Blake, the choice to bring him in and take the risk on him, to watch it fail so spectacularly, and then to see him thrive in Washington 1 year later, I think is a huge gut punch and a bad look.
It would feel a lot worse if Darcy Kemper wasn't fantastic. But he has been.
That's a fair point.
So, he's the reason I think the Kings were in a lot of those games. It could have been totally different. So, you're right. I disagree with the move. However, you look at Rob Blake recently, Warren Fogle was fantastic this year. That's a great acquisition. A lot of the recent moves look good on paper. Joel Edmondson. I even like the trade for Tanner Jeannot. Rob Blake made a lot of good moves. It just didn't click again. And how many times can it not click?
I mean, how many times can you go into a round one against Edmonton and not have it go your way? And to have the pain of to go up 2-0 in the series, look great. And then it feels like the challenge and everything unravels and you lose 4 straight. How many minutes away were you from going up 3-0 in that series in Game 3?
I want to say 3.5, 4. Yeah.
It stings.
Yeah, definitely stings.
And I feel you because I've been there. But it's a gut punch. And
Game 3 it was like a minute. Yeah.
So is there a clear direction for them to go moving forward?
I'm so glad you asked. Can I address the audience?
Talk to them.
All right, this is good. I'm going to give Will Tallant's going to like this. I'm going to give a Periclean funeral oration here. Yeah, I'm going to invoke Pericles here. Friends, fans, fellow sufferers. I speak not merely to mourn what was lost, but to reflect what it means to bleed the silver and black, and what it means to stand for something brighter amid the bitter echo of yet another playoff exit to the Edmonton Oilers. Let none say we lacked valor. The battles were close, the boys were buzzing, and they showed up to every game. Despite falling to the tyrants of the North, let us remember, even in defeat, greatness may yet be forged, Lou. We begin as tradition commands with honor to the fallen. Let it be known throughout the lands, from utopian Bakersfield to shining riverside, that Darcy Kemper, the last bastion of hope, he stood tall as the barbarian horde bore down in waves. He turned away high-danger chances with defiance and grace. Though the scoreboard and Drew Doughty betrayed him, we will not. We have 2 more years of him. 2 more years, Lou. his benevolent and thankless service. Let Darcy's glove be our shield, his pad be our prayer. Let his name be spoken with reverence besides those of Quick and Rogie. We must also speak honestly, though, of those who led us or those who failed to lead us. For Jim Hiller, whose reign as coach, much like the eternally damned General Alcibiades, he had a brief but calamitous season as skipper. He consistently placed trust not in the youth who earned their glory all season, like the sprite Jordan Spence or fearsome Brant Clark, but instead he trotted out old veterans whose time, though noble, had passed. Even worse, he traitorously shot the fellas in the foot at the end of Game 3. In the heat of battle, blind, he called for a challenge so foolish, so dim-witted, it cost them the very game. A cursory glance at the replay footage would have showed no interference. And furthermore, challenging a play that was already reviewed? Jim! For such crimes against the kingdom, history will not be kind to Hiller, and if I had it my way, he would get the Socratic punishment of exile for impiety and corrupting the youth. Why, O Hiller, did Moverare skate while Spence watched? Why was Clark, the 22-year-old crown jewel of our defense, confined to the shadows and short shifts? He played 12:47 per playoff game compared to 16:17 during the regular season. It's like taking Leonidas out of Thermopylae. And for Trevor Lewis, yes, a legend, a hero of the old regime, but no longer our future. To play him over Alex Turcotte, the hungry and often concussed heir to our legacy, that was a decision not of loyalty to a former cup winner, but of blindness. So we've seen this before. 4 years in a row. When will the lesson be learned? Who will pay for our failures? Rob Blake, general manager these 8 years, he has yet to taste the sweetness of a single series victory. His armor shines, but what is it protected? And what are the games themselves? We led, we battled, we collapsed. Again and again, when the hour demanded fortitude, the Kings bent, not for lack of skill, but for lack of Hiller instinct. The inability to close out games to stomp out hope is not a failure of talent, but of vision. So this too must be said. Let us praise the Kings not as they are, but what they could be. We must lift up the hope of our kingdom. A hope forged in youth and resilience. It's youth and resilience. If we would dare to reclaim our destiny, you re-sign Kempe. Re-sign Gavrikov. These are men who will define the coming era. These are the foundations upon which victory can be built. Let the veterans who once carried us now guide from the shadows. Let the young seize the light. So grieve not as those without hope, Kings faithful. The fourth loss is not the end, merely another lesson carved in the cold. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. We'll see you next year, Los Angeles.
And they say you don't learn anything in college. I'd like to learn more about the coming era, if you've got time. We'll do that behind the boards, though, after the break. Karen?
That was it?
That's it? Shall we?
Yeah.
Should we wrap things up?
Yeah, let's go to break.
That was great.
This is WFUV Sports one-on-one.
It sure is.
Please
Absolutely.
Call in if you have any thoughts. I'm really sorry for that.
No, it was good. It was great, man. You crushed it.
Okay.
Good job.
Thanks, Lou.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk to you guys about more puck after the break. Please stick around.
Hi, my name is Ryan Rucco, WFUV class of 2008. WFUV is your home for all things Fordham athletics, with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to our Saturday show, One-on-One. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV Sports.
The 2024-25 New Jersey Devils season did end this past week in that Game 5 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. 5-4 in overtime. I mean, starting with that game, what a game. Really. 3-0 in 10 minutes for the Devils. Starts to feel like maybe they'll force a Game 6 and give their fans one last game to appreciate that. Maybe they won't even win that Game 6, but they'll force a Game 6 and they'll get back into it. But right towards the end of that first period, there's a shout from the fans that they missed a tripping call. And then about 20 or so seconds later, there's a puck that goes in the air. Cody Glass collides with Shane Gostisbehere, seemed like a 50-50 puck. I don't know. Refs give it 2 minutes, and that
call was ridiculous.
On the carry
that
overtime,
call was actually unbelievable.
On the carry overtime in the start of the second period, Carolina scores, or maybe it was just as the penalty expired. Carolina scored.
It was like right at. It may have been right before it expired. I think it was still on the power play.
Either way,
but regardless.
Either way, the momentum that Carolina started in the second period, which they were devoid of entirely in the first period because the Devils just smothered them, was something of a gift from the officials. But you get a power play doesn't mean you're going to score. Look at the New Jersey Devils, right? They got power plays, and all that kept doing was giving the Hurricanes more momentum, especially when they play games in their building in Raleigh at Lenovo Center.
They can't win in Raleigh.
If you give the Devils a power play, what's going to happen is in 2 minutes from now, the crowd is just going to be get fully behind the Hurricanes for having killed it off. So that started it all.
Did it go fully over? I think the power play went fully over.
They did not score a single power play goal. I think they went 0 for 16, maybe 17, maybe 15. It was around there in the playoffs.
That's like Rangers type
the
stuff.
Hurricanes had the best penalty kill in the NHL in the regular season this year. Literally the #1 kill. But that shouldn't have mattered because the Devils had one of the better, if not the best power play. At times, certainly the best power play in the league.
Yes. They did.
It just goes away.
To end the season, they had the best power play in the league. Following Jack Hughes' injury, actually, the Devils had the best power play, which is hard to believe, right? But there was another big player missing on the power play for New Jersey this series, and that was a guy who got injured in Game 1, and that's Luke Hughes. Had been quarterbacking the first power play unit for New Jersey. Dougie Hamilton, who's been dealing with a knee injury all season, used to have that role, has not been very successful in that role. I think that was proven in the playoffs. I thought Simone Nemec did a better job than Dougie ever did in this series of quarterbacking the power play. Luke Hughes was a big miss. Jack Hughes was a big miss. But that Hurricanes penalty kill, their special teams, their power play even, just remarkable in how they find a way to just put other teams into uncomfortable situations. And
the Devils did still put some excellent kills together, though.
They absolutely did, and they had to a lot, especially in that overtime game in Game 3, where they just kept taking penalties at the end. And I'm sitting up there in the press box, and I'm ripping my hair out that they're taking minute-and-a-half shifts in their own zone, and they can't get the puck out. They keep trying to flip it through the center. The guys use the glass.
What's so annoying about this series too is that Game 3 took so much energy out of the Devils. The D-men that game were playing shorthanded with the injuries. Like Brian Dumoulin was taking 2 or 3 minute shifts at a time, and he was doing great.
We interrupt your scheduled programming to identify the station. You're listening to 90.7 FM WFUV New York.
But then you come into Game 4, how is anybody supposed to have the legs to play another game? Obviously, the Hurricanes were also out there, but the problem is the Devils were the ones who were skating with the initiative for the entire back end of Game 3, trying to get the win. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes are pretty much just trying to survive because they already have a 2-game lead in the series. A loss is okay there.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be fine for them because by the time they got to Game 4, the Hurricanes were fresher and the Devils were still panting from Game 3.
Let's go through each of the games then, because this is one of our local teams, if you will. Game 1, Carolina was all over them, dominated. That shorthanded goal from Jordan Martinook, who has always had the Devils' number, whether regular season, playoffs, he's a Devil killer.
His stats against the Devils in the playoffs alone are ridiculous. I wish I had him in front of me, but it's actually unreal. He scores at least a point almost every time he plays the Devils in the postseason. It's really bad. And it's not even just 4 or 5 games or something. It's bad.
It's always
He's
those
played against the
random
Devils a lot.
too.
That's the thing with the Devils. There are just a number of middle six role playing guys who just absolutely dominate them. Boone Jenner is one on Columbus.
Oh my God!
I hate Boone Jenner with a passion.
Why
Jordan,
do you hate Boone Jenner?
Because he always kills the
dogs
Devils.
the Devils every
Such a
time.
likable player.
That's the thing. He just makes the Devils miserable. So Jordan Martinook in 10 career playoff games against the Devils has 4 goals, 9 assists, and a +6.
Wait, say that again?
4 goals, 9 assists in 10 games against the Devils. He got 13 points. That's ridiculous.
Jordan
man.
Martinook.
This is Jordan Martinook. Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
I think he had about 13 points in the regular season, and then let alone in his career against the playoffs and against the Devils in the playoffs.
That's where you make your name.
Yeah, I mean,
Barkley Goodrow.
he's that guy. He didn't have a point in games 3, 4, or 5, ironically enough.
Oh.
But that game set the tone. It was very clear. Not only were the Devils a step behind in terms of their organization and the way that they wanted to play, but it was clear like they were a gear behind.
Yeah.
And then when the injuries began to pile up, Brendan Dillon, Luke Hughes and Jack Hughes, of course, and then
they started the series no Siegenthaler.
Right, no Siegenthaler.
And Cody Glass gets slashed by Jacob Markstrom.
Forgot about that one. There's just too many. There's just too many. And by the way, you've got Brett Pesce, who's playing on some sort of injury.
Yeah,
you've
he was
got
playing
Dougie
on like
Hamilton
one leg.
playing on the knee. You've got a lot of wounded warriors out there trying to sort things out. But then in game 2, they kind of show life. They prove that they belong in this series, and there's a fight to be won here. And they went into that into game 3 at the Rock with that belief. And I'll tell you, that was the loudest I've heard that building in a long time.
The Devils fans were waiting. They were waiting for some good playoff success. I think they had that taste with the Rangers in 23, but
I get it.
there were some loud moments.
I'll tell you what.
Was it louder than that series?
It was louder than that series because part of what makes
they're getting hungrier.
Part of what makes Devils Rangers so special in the playoffs is that
it's all Rangers fans at the
there's
benches.
no home ice on either side. You're gonna get a ton of Devils fans at the Garden, and you're gonna get a ton of Rangers fans at the Rock for a playoff series, and that's exactly what happened. I went to game 4 Devils Rangers at the Garden in 2023. That game was played entirely within the blue lines.
Yeah.
That was not an incredible loud atmosphere because of the way that game was played.
It was also that game was like a 3-1. It was like a really close game.
It was a 1-0 game, and the Rangers were trying to get into it, and then in the third, Trocheck scored.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
and then the crowd was taken out of it because of the way that was played. This Devils Hurricanes game was up the whole time.
Really? Yeah.
And
game 3 was like that too, because I remember I made friends with a Devils fan because Daniel Jones was shown on the screen, and if you don't know about Daniel Jones, I'm his only supporter.
Right.
And I was said something about that's my quarterback, and I made friends with a Devils fan in front of me. It was really
this
wholesome.
at game 3 at the Garden in 23?
Like the Dougie Hamilton
the
overtime
OT game?
winner. Yeah.
Ooh. That must have been a much better atmosphere than what game 4 was for me.
It was still it was a 2-1 game because
Yeah.
I think Kreider scored and then Hughes scored
Yeah,
on the power
Kreider
play.
had the snipe,
So it was
yeah.
it was kind of silent.
I
There was
remember
too much
that.
tension in the air. But anyways, yeah.
So that's what made that series different. This one is it's a bunch of Devils fans
Excited.
who are begging their team to score a goal because they don't want to.
Yeah, they barely even care about actually winning
yeah,
this
it was
season. It
not
felt
a
like they
winning
just
season.
wanted them
Yeah.
to do something.
Yeah, can
I
make
think
us
this
proud.
season's a success. I'm gonna.
I don't know if it's hard
I
not to
do.
notice, but when you're in the Rock and the Devils have the puck, if it's been a while since they've scored, the fans every single time, Dougie Hamilton, it happens the most.
You start
for.
to inch out of your seat a little.
Every time he touches the puck, the whole building is just shoot.
Yeah.
And it's we know he knows he has to shoot the puck at the net, but it builds so much, and then eventually the whole building is just do something positive. Because obviously if they get scored on 3 times or get shut out at home again, the fans would not be happy about that.
Right. That the desperation was noticeable not only for the fans but with the players because they started that first period in game 3 really hard, and it took a long stretch pass from Palat, who he's Andre Palat. He's not the same player he used to be, frankly, but I'll tell you what, he was pretty good in this series. Not good enough to be making the money he's making.
He's an unsung hero all
Yeah,
season, though,
just-
I would say. But
right.
yeah, a little too much money for an unsung hero.
Can't just be a guy who digs pucks out of the corners and makes a nice stretch pass here and there. He's got to be providing more. But he found Timo Meier. He found Nico Hischier. It was a great team goal. Then they go up 2-0 on another really good team goal. Bratt forces his way through the net. Mercer scores. And I'm thinking, this is the Devils team we need to play. You need to take Carolina's speed out of the game. And then they took a bunch of penalties in the third period, and they let Carolina bring it back. And I'm thinking, this is so Devils. They're going to blow it. But how about Simone Nemitz to be the hero? When Jonathan Kovacevic went down in that first period, they're playing 5D. One of them is playing in basically his playoff debut.
Nemitz, it was his playoff debut. It was his first playoff game ever.
First playoff game ever. You think they were going to restrict his minutes. They have no choice but not to. Same thing with Siegenthaler. Was going to play restricted minutes, and he ends up playing almost the season high in minutes. Brian Dumoulin plays 37 minutes, who I was very critical of in terms of that deadline acquisition. I'm like, we got so many defensemen. Why do we need another defenseman?
Yeah.
And then all the defensemen got injured, and I was like, okay, we needed this defenseman. And then he ends up
It's
being...
Fitz knew what he was doing.
Yeah. Yes and no. We'll talk about that. he got that one right. Dumoulin was so important in the end, and he had to be. He was fantastic. And they dominated the overtime. They dominated overtime, dominated double overtime. They needed that win. They got that win. And then game 4, they were right there too, right? They down a couple goals. They brought it back, made it 3-1, then 3-2. They had the feeling in the building. And then that's where the special teams really needed to come through, I thought.
There were a couple moments.
You get a power play goal in game 4 to tie that at 3-3. They had a couple chances. It didn't go their way. And then an early empty netter. I mean, they were awful with the empty net this series. Awful.
Yeah.
I understand going early if you're Sheldon Keefe.
But they were just
minutes,
getting scored on like the first 30
Dougie
seconds.
Hamilton just makes one stretch pass and immediately puts it in the path of Sebastian Aho. And I'm thinking, if you're going to go empty net with 3.5 minutes, you got to take care of the puck. And that's just not what they did. So they found a way themselves, really, to not work it out. This Carolina team, they have the intangibles. They really do. I believe that. And game 4, flipped, though, when Frederik Andersen came out of the game. That was a massive turning point in the series.
Yeah, that was a really
a
weird point in that game, too, because he kind of, like, the contact happens, and then the play goes to the other end of the ice. And so they're back in the Devils zone, but then the whistles go, and everybody's like, what is going on? And then you just kind of look back to the other end of the ice, and Andersen is literally just, like, face down in the goal, like, for a second. And I was like, oh, that's a problem. He gets looked at for, like, 2 minutes, and the Devils fans were just booing the entire time.
Yeah.
It was basically a timeout for the Hurricanes without it being a timeout. But, of course, Andersen was injured on the contact with Meyer.
And he is day-to-day now. So
yeah, but
not a guarantee he'll be available for round 2.
Kochetkov isn't a bad...
He's a serviceable backup.
He's not a bad goalie to come in, but I think the opportunity for the Devils was that he was coming into that game ice cold. And to not be able to figure him out the rest of the way, it really just... I mean, did they got him twice, right? I think. Or how many goals did Andersen give up before he came out?
Andersen had given up just the one.
Okay,
and then Timo Meyer scored almost immediately on Kochetkov, and that was added a little bit more intrigue.
Yeah,
to
and
the
that
whole
was
thing
that was the goal where he
Meyer,
just spun around and fired it at the net.
Yes,
from right off the face.
He was unsighted. He couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Look, Kochetkov carried the load for Carolina in the regular season because Andersen was out for a lot of it. He's been dealing with a knee thing for a while, but Kochetkov is he's not just a backup. He's a starter for most teams in the National Hockey League. He is that good. Andersen is expected to practice by the end of the week, but is considered day-to-day with that injury. I mean, Kochetkov is more than serviceable. He's a starter for a lot of teams, but Andersen was playing out of his mind. He really was. He was that good. He's a playoff performer, and it has been for a while. With the exception of that overtime goal he gave up to Nemitz, he was excellent in that series.
And I don't even know if, yes, he was excellent, but the Devils also just did not do a great job outside of that third game getting pucks to the net. They couldn't get pucks there.
I thought games 2, 3, and 4 they did a game. I mean, granted, he did not play in game 5.
There were
games
stretches
2 through 5 we saw better.
There were certainly stretches of play during these games when the Devils got they started to connect on a couple of passes, and then it'd be a 5 or 6 minute flurry where they get 5 or 6, maybe 7 shots on net. But you look at the shot differential, and Carolina always has at least 10 more or 15 more shots than the Devils so consistently.
That's just that's their MO.
You just toss it at the net.
Yeah.
And it works. It does work. If the volume is there, the puck will find the back of the net. And the Devils figured that out as the series went on. But again, that could be sort of a that could be the gear thing you were talking about in game 1, where it looked like game 1 looked like a lot of those games from the regular season where the Devils just kind of weren't really all there, mentally, because they're kind of skating around, but when it comes to passing, especially in the neutral zone, they just go through the motions. And even entering the zone, they have no
entry, they horrible without
all
Jack
season.
Hughes.
Without Jack Hughes, he can't just knife through, but their alternative is, we're just going to dump it in every single time. Just chip in, and go change. There's no initiative. The only time I saw initiative on a zone entry after a dump in was from like the third or fourth line when Justin Dowling is like going into the corner.
Yeah, that started the OT goal.
Exactly. That is the only time when we saw the dump and chase actually work in this series, and they were trying to do it the entire time.
I think they were just bad at picking and choosing when to dump and chase and when to try to go through because every time they try, unless it was Bratt or maybe Hischier or maybe Nemitz actually trying to skate through the zone.
Nemitz actually had some really good entries.
Nemitz had the best zone entries of the entire team. I think apart from those three guys, they had no choice but to dump and chase because they just couldn't get through that very good neutral zone defense of
Carolina.
Of
they have a lot of really good sticks.
Dude,
they're really good hands.
Jordan Stahl was on
line.
the ice every time Nico Hischier was out there. And like Jordan Stahl, you could say what you will about his skill as a player. Tough guy to play against.
And
underrated.
The top lines matched well between these two teams, but that's a problem for the Devils because when the top two lines get neutralized, there's zero depth on the third and fourth line.
So I'll tell you what. They didn't have the score. I mean, you look at they only scored more than 3 goals in game 5, and 3 of them came in the first 10 minutes on a goaltender that they were taking advantage of. I thought Kochekov is good. Had a great season. The Devils absolutely identified that he was a weakness when he went in. The drop off from Anderson to Kochekov was big. I think that's going to be a problem for Carolina if Anderson is not available against Washington. Absolutely, it will. But this was never going to be the Devils' year. We've acknowledged that. Jack Hughes, a healthy Jonas Siegenthaler, maybe they change a couple things here and there, but the wheels fell off the wagon post-Christmas for this Devils team.
Yeah.
Their last big moment, they had a few big moments in the back half of the season, of course, but their last real big hurrah was that dominating win over the Rangers at home.
That was the last moment when I still thought the Stanley Cup was possible.
Was in reach.
That killed my Stanley Cup hopes. Yeah.
And in many ways, it killed the Devils too, because that was the last
that was the last time
it came.
They did anything. They went on that Christmas break, and that was it.
But
it was over.
That was bad.
To talk about the push they made in Game 4 made people proud. They came back in that game.
Honestly,
they were within a goal.
That changed the entire complexion of the series.
Yeah.
Winning Game 3 and then fighting it out in Game 4. I feel like it kind of changed. Like the whole fan base, I kind of felt was ready to kind of just totally dunk on this team if they got swept. But winning a game and then battling it out in Game 5,
in the adversity,
double overtime in Game 5, and being right there to forcing it back to the Rock, that changed everything, and it made the outlook afterwards just so much more positive.
Well, to remind folks what happened in Game 5, Devils go up 3-0. Controversial penalty to Cody Glass at the end of the first. The carryover time, Carolina figures it out 3-1 early in that period. Then
floodgates.
They get another. It's 3-2. Maybe you think Markstrom going cross ice. It goes through the wickets. He gets a pad on it. You'd really want him to make that save, ideally. Doesn't happen. Sheldon Keefe says,
third
all right,
one's rough.
Calm down. Let's take a timeout. Then they take a penalty. Then they take another penalty. And what was this? Was it to make it 4-4? Was that the 5-on-3, or was it to make it 3-3 the 5-on-3?
Ooh.
Because there was a couple of lead changes in that second period that it gets hard to remember when you give up 4 goals. But the point being, they took bad penalties. Controversial because when they were already taking a penalty, Eric Haula gets the stick underneath the knee of Sebastian Aho. Aho goes down, makes a bit of a meal out of it. There was shouts for an embellishment. I thought it was a trip and maybe a given embellishment. I don't know, but there was a bit of inconsistency in some of the calls. I don't think the Devils would have had the series regardless. Maybe they would have won Game 5, but eventually it's 3-3. Within 3 or so minutes, Carolina scores 3 goals.
That evil man Svechnikov.
And I'll tell you what, Svechnikov, unbelievable series from him.
I really had to watch a hat trick from Svechnikov at the Rock.
Yeah.
I love Svechnikov.
Brutal. And then
I don't anymore.
Early in
I don't know why I like him.
Early in the aftermath
Actually, I do.
of having that game of having the game tied up, this is actually for me is one of the bigger moments of the whole series. Is that this Devils team clobbered? They're getting battered. They have no chances in this period. And then out of nothing, a good fight behind the net, the puck squirts free to the slot, and Nico Hischier tags this one into the top corner.
Dude,
just
regular
a snipe.
season, that being up 3-0 and then giving up 3 goals in the second period, that is a recipe for a 6-3 loss in the regular season.
Yeah.
Watching Nico Hischier score the 4th goal to give the Devils the lead back, I was like, oh wow, this is a completely different game.
Yeah. And it didn't swing the momentum anywhere back into the Devils' favor. They gave up a tying goal shortly thereafter. And I believe that one was on the 5-on-3. But that's the name of the show. But
I was waiting for that.
But I still think that moment from Nico made me proud that they weren't going to crumble here, that they found a way to make it a game, and then
no goals for 40 minutes.
And look, you could say what you will about the second and third goals from Markstrom. He made 37 straight saves before they got eliminated in that double overtime. Unbelievable third period from him. Some of the best, he was pulling out saves, and I literally turned to my friends when I was watching, and I said, This guy is flying around in the goal like Marty Brodeur.
The first overtime period was ridiculous because the Devils only had 4 shots by 16-3. But Markstrom was so elite. He was locked in that overtime.
And the best chance of the entire overtime was with 2 seconds left. Kochetkov doesn't have his stick. Is out of the goal. It falls to Bratt on the half wall. He doesn't even looking. He just fires it at a net that he thinks might be empty. And this one was going into the top shelf. Kochetkov slides across and saves it with the bare hand of his blocker side. Unbelievable save from Kochetkov. It was the one moment he was really called into action in the overtime period. And then it's a double
Markstrom have
overtime.
a crazy one like that too?
Markstrom had he
was way out of the crease or something.
Markstrom had one where he came out, made a kick save, turned, made a second kick save, and then dove across and gloved the shot that was going in an empty net. Unreal stuff. He redeemed himself for what was an underwhelming first or second period from him. I thought maybe it was time to bring in Jake Allen, and we were talking about this yesterday. Sheldon Keefe trusted in his starting goaltender, and that was a decision that paid off. Unfortunately, the game didn't go their way, and largely because of a consequential double overtime call. I mean, the Devils were never going to – they would have had to have gotten a super lucky bounce if they were going to win with the way that the overtime periods were going. Carolina was just feeling it. 16-3 in shots after the first overtime.
It's a miracle they got out of the first overtime.
It doesn't make sense how they did.
And then, it's second OT, 4 minutes in, Dawson Mercer gets caught trying to chip the puck into the zone, the thing they've been trying to do the entire series, and it hasn't worked. But he tries to chip it into the zone, and the stick goes a little wild up high. Catch it. Who did he catch?
Kokaniemi.
Yeah, he catches Kokaniemi in the face and draws blood.
Drew a lot of blood
pretty quick. It's a double minor all day long from the office, I think, just because it drew blood. You can't ignore that.
That's a stupid rule.
It was a tough one not to call.
Exactly.
It would have felt
it's a tough one not to call.
The blood thing. I'm saying the blood thing. We're living in a league where people don't high stick others intentionally anymore. And a vicious high stick cannot draw blood, but a less vicious high stick can draw blood, and then you get 4 minutes for I think that's I don't like the two.
And on a call that he wasn't even it wasn't a high sticking his stick shouldn't have been there.
It was the way the stick
his stick
hit,
was it was the follow through of the chip.
Yeah,
so,
and this part of your body always draws blood, right here when you get hit on the eyebrow.
So and this is another caveat to add to the discussion. In Game 4, when Anderson went down, the refs on the ice gave Timo Meier a 5-minute penalty because that gave them the opportunity to look at it and downgrade it either to a minor or cancel out the penalty altogether. And that's what they did. They canceled it out. But when they went to review the Mercer penalty, they gave a double minor on the ice, which means you can only review for a double minor or it nicks it entirely. I would have been fine with just 2 minutes for that. Obviously, you draw blood. That's the rule. But because of the follow-through, this and that, I think double minor maybe a bit harsh. I would have given a penalty for that. It looked bad. It would have been really harsh not to give a penalty. They took a guy, got a stick up into his eye. That happens.
It would be interesting. I don't remember.
Especially because the Devils did so well to kill the first 2 minutes. They got clear after clear.
They got through the first 2 minutes,
and
right?
And then the first bit of established possession time in the O-zone, 30 seconds, pass, one-timer for Aho. Markstrom's unsighted, and he has every right to be livid, especially after Hischier made a big shot block. He's laboring over to try to cover Aho, and he can't. Just a heartbreaking way to lose in a game where they gave everything. But with the adversity stacked up against them, with the way that they had played, even when healthy going into the playoffs, and then when they were unhealthy going into the playoffs, it just wasn't going to be the year for the Devils, unfortunately. Tucker.
Yeah. I mean...
it was worth going down the Rick Tocchet lane, and that opens up a whole can of worms with he was just there with JT Miller when Miller and Pedersen were going at it. I don't think we needed to go down that lane. We didn't need to go down the Joel Quenneville lane, and I'm glad we never have to have conversations about that. Didn't seem like David Carl was a legitimate option for this team, that of all the realistic options, Mike Sullivan seemed like the dream candidate, and it required him stepping away from the Pittsburgh Penguins job. He does that. He goes to the Rangers. You have the man in place. I think, unfortunately, the bigger question is, what's the team going to look like?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has any idea. Maybe exit day makes people a little more optimistic that Kreider's still going to be around. I think that Mika Zibanejad ends up being here next year, and I personally like to see what a full year of him on the right wing next to JT Miller looks like. But I also can't blame you if you say, hey, I'm done with the Mika Zibanejad experiment. I want to find a way to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And the same with Kreider. If this season really soiled Kreider's legacy for you and you just go, I think the Rangers need to get that $6 million cap hit off the books and get younger and give Othman and Berard and Perreault time to develop, that's going to be good for our long-term future. I honestly can't disagree with you.
But that's also, you mentioned sort of whether it's a rebuild or a reset. I kind of find it to be somewhere in between the two, which I think is also a similar situation that Sullivan walked into in Pittsburgh, where it's a little different than that in terms of some of the roster uncertainty. But I think it leans towards rebuild in the sense that, as you mentioned, there's these questions around, does this person belong here? Does this person have a future here? How are we getting more rotational players that are towards the bottom of the totem pole in, and do they have a future, and are they going to have a defined role come next season? But I also think it's more of the reset in a sense that you mention all of that talent. You mentioned that it's Trocheck, it's JT Miller, it's Artemi Panarin, it's Chris Kreider, it's Mika Zibanejad. It's a handful of championship caliber players who did not play like championship caliber players for a full season.
Even when they made the playoffs.
Yes.
You would there are a lot of people that criticize
Historically
that roster as
disappeared.
not having enough and didn't play. Mika Zibanejad last few years has not played well in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Even Artemi Panarin, who's been the bright spot of that core, the production's dipped.
Right.
That it's you can say, oh, they got plenty of talent. They have a talented roster. But it's a roster that this year did not come close really to making the playoffs.
And that's why I think it's somewhere between, like, I would say it leans more towards reset than rebuild, obviously. But I think it's kind of somewhere in between, more reset, because, again, it's more about, like, okay, you have all of this talent. You've shown that you could win a President's Trophy with 95% of this team. What the hell isn't clicking? Like, why is there still a disconnect with these elite players?
And I think how that reset is going to manifest, and I think people are not going to like it, but I think how it's going to go is you're going to see a very similar team in the first couple months of the season until they prove that either last year was not a fluke and there's needs to be a serious adjustment, or you prove that, like the Devils, that last year was a fluke and that this is actually a good team. And barring Devils-esque injuries, like this team is very capable of doing what they did in President's Trophy-wise.
I've got one last question for you. Mike Sullivan, 10 years with the Pittsburgh Penguins. What day does Sidney Crosby start wearing the Rangers jersey? When's that happening? Bring him over.
I would love that.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
It would be fun.
I'll give you, let's see.
Tomorrow.
Sidney Crosby will be a Ranger by January 14th, 2027.
I love it.
January 14th, 2027, Sidney
Write
Crosby.
it down,
Too late
circle
for
the calendar.
Too late for him to be good. Sounds like a Ranger already.
Yep.
I can't wait.
God. What a Vlad Tarasenko signing that would be.
He'll help sell some season tickets early in the season, but when we get into the dog days
of
summer,
August, we're lucky if his points percentage will be his weight.
Yep.
The Yankees don't want him. It's been fun. It's our last puck segment of the day.
Yeah.
Last ever puck segment on 101 till the senior show.
Oh my God.
Let that sink in.
Wow.
It stings. The Rangers have their new head coach, Mike Sullivan, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, 10 years with the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's the man that will be behind the bench for the New York Rangers this upcoming year.
Way to go, Mike.
For my good pals, Nick Palmer, Jack Warner, Lou Orlando, we're not quite done talking NBA basketball. And if you're sitting at home and going, gosh, it's been a minute since I've seen Eli Keeler, just wait a second.
Oh, just wait.
He's coming. We're back in a second.
Hi, this is Mike Breen, WFUV class of 1983. WFUV is the flagship station of Fordham Athletics with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to Saturday one-on-one. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV Sports.
One-on-one, New York's longest-running sports call-in show. Call in at 718-817-2750 to join the conversation. That's 718-817-2750. We're switching gears back to the NBA now after 3 segments of hockey. Let's go back to the other set of playoffs that we have in the Big Four. And that's the National Basketball Association. 2 Game 7s coming up. One today. Nuggets, Clippers, been a great series so far. One coming up was actually forced last night between the Rockets and the Warriors. I want to start this segment, though, guys, with LeBron's comments about convincing Luka to stay. Now, as we know, LeBron. He is non-committal about playing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find that to be a surprise whatsoever.
No.
But in terms of convincing Luka Doncic to stay with the Lakers, LeBron James had to say, no, that ain't my job. I know Luka knows how I feel about him, and ultimately that trade happened for the future. That's not for me. Luka has to decide what he has to do with his future. He's 26 years old. I'm 40, so he can't be basing his career off me. That's just not real. But I hope, obviously, he stays long term. Laker fans, bleep, love him here. LA has accepted him. We love him as a teammate and as a brother, but ultimately he's got to make a decision for himself. Bleep, I ain't going to be around much longer.
Damn.
Whew. I feel that. I feel Bron there. He is 40, and Luka is only 26. As much as it probably doesn't make a ton of sense, I guess right now, that is Luka's team, though, because LeBron is right. LeBron will be gone very soon out of the league. So, yeah, that was for the Lakers' future. LeBron is not the Lakers' future. LeBron is the Lakers' present until he is their past.
He might even be their past.
We have no idea yet.
Yeah, I think LeBron is always just such like anything he says will attract a lot of viewership. I wouldn't read too crazy into what he said, like, just yet. Like, what he said is an objective fact. Like, it's true. There's a 14-year age gap between them. LeBron's at the end of the road. Luka is on a Hall of Fame career right now and is still young and is just finished up what has been the biggest transition of his career in being traded away from the team he thought he would retire with to becoming a core piece and the future leader of a team in one of the biggest, if not the biggest, sports market in the world, next to New York. So I nothing he said was like, everything he said was an objective fact. I just think right now, like, he's a few days removed from being eliminated by the Timberwolves after such high expectations for the Lakers heading into these playoffs. The amount of times down the stretch in the late points of the regular season where people were predicting the Lakers to be a finals contender and everything just kind of falling apart there against Minnesota. I don't think he's going to be overly emotional or sharing too much to any media right now. In fact, I'm surprised that they even got that out of him this soon after an elimination. But yeah, like it's definitely like an eye-opening quote. I just think the elimination was so recent that, like, I wouldn't read too crazy into it, because I don't think you could be LeBron James or you could be Reed Shepherd, and you're not going to be dumping your heart out.
That's our boy.
Yeah, it's our boy. You're not going to be, like, dumping your heart out passionately over more controversial or, potentially huge storylines just a few days removed from a pretty souring playoff exit.
I find it hard to see LeBron leave after this year. I really do.
I do too.
I think that's just not the way he should go out. Now, that's on his terms, but personally, a first-round exit I don't think is the way to go, especially in this series alone. He averaged 25, 9, and just about 6 assists. And he also had just under 2 blocks per game with exactly 2 steals per game in 5 games in this first round.
That man is 40 years old.
He's 40 years old. I don't see any signs of him stopping that production next year. I don't think he just says, yeah, I'm done after this year. I think that would be a little premature. I think the Lakers definitely should run it back and see what they can do with the time that LeBron has left. Now, I will say, hopefully if he would like it to remain private, they don't make it public. LeBron should let them know when he's planning to retire, if it's before the season, so they have an idea as to what they would want to do in terms of free agency, in terms of trade deadline, because LeBron James at 40 years old will impact all of the roster moves that the Lakers make, no matter what his decision is.
For sure. I think he's gone. That's my hot take. I do think he will retire.
Really?
You think so?
I really do. And that is a hot take, and I don't necessarily think he should. Like, I think I would love to see another year where he more playoff success, still putting up numbers like that, etc. But you think about it like this. I sensed, obviously I don't know Bron, but I sensed a little bit of, like, in those comments about Luka, like, maybe he's not upset with the Lakers leadership, ownership, GM, etc., but there's a little bit of disrespect there. There's, like, he's like, that move wasn't for me. It's not for right now. The Lakers' plan was not, with the Luka trade, we're going to win a chip this year. It's building for the future. Now you're adding such a big player like Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
You can work towards that. If they were really concerned, here's the thing with the Lakers, like, if you're super concerned with a great big, like, farewell tour or Bron ending out on top, why? Like, the Luka move, you can't say no to that, but it's like you are kind of contradicting yourself in the sense of, yeah, we want LeBron to finish strong, but if this is possibly his last year, we're building more for the future. It's kind of a little, doesn't really totally make sense. Obviously, you have to get the Luka trade done. I'm just saying, from a Bron perspective, you add up, okay, they're kind of past me at this point if I'm Bron, and maybe he's come to terms with that, because he is 40. I had statistically some of the best numbers I've ever put up. So in a way, like you're ending out on top, so he could be comfortable with that, leaving in that with those stats, putting up those stats. Here's another thing. I think he's really concerned about his knees.
Yeah. He did just he sprained his MCL.
Just sprained his MCL.
Yeah.
And if you remember, like, this was like mid-season, regular season. He had one game where it's just like ridiculous. He had some like, I forget what it was, but he just put up some crazy stat line, running, jumping all over the gym like young Braun would. And he had an interview where he spoke like, wow, yeah, like if I'm feeling good, maybe I could do this for a long time, joking around. Like a week later, he's like like another interview after like fine game, and he's like, yeah, man, like my knees are feeling this. You're feeling, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And he said that in a post-game interview and sprains his MCL. The Lakers are not concerned with him any longer. The only reason he would come back, in my opinion, is brawny, and because the Lakers and the NBA are putting pressure on him to have some sort of big farewell tour. I think he's ready to go.
That's fair. To his credit, too, if he's concerned about his MCL, I think that's a very legit concern, because if at his age, who knows how long that really takes to heal. I know it's just a sprain, but to the point where it's at full strength and you have the confidence where you're not going to create further damage, gets a little bit more bleak the older you get with injuries like that. So if he comes back and he hurts his knee again,
how tragic would that be?
The league doesn't need that.
If he tears his ACL on a farewell tour, that's horrible.
And that's the last thing you would need to see from the greatest player of the generation and possibly of all time, is to have an exit like that, which that's where I do understand the thought process of like him hanging it up after this season, because if his health and the stability of his knees and that sort of stuff is very like legitimate and barring on his ability to like safely play, then I don't think it's a crazy decision at all to retire. The other thing that kind of opens up to is, I think one of the most special moments ever was getting to watch Kobe's last game where he dropped 60 whatever points, like 61 points or 63 points. Like that was a very special moment for everyone that loved Kobe and appreciated what he did for basketball. But that's also a player that I wish went out on better circumstances. Like may have gone on too long, where he wasn't as, ridiculously mobile, especially even in that final season, in that farewell season. The Lakers were terrible, which was like a much different scenario than where we're at right now. But I feel like there's just this, when you're like an all-time like legacy type player, there's also, I think, an environment you want to have surrounding it, where like even in David Ortiz's farewell season, the Sox made the first round of the playoffs and got knocked out. And it was like he had his moment where he's crying on the mound at Fenway Park, waving bye to everybody. I think there's also, I think with LeBron, your situation here is like, I would love to see a LeBron farewell tour. Like, I think that would be special. And I've always said to people, like, when the Queen was getting old, and they were like, when the Queen passes away, the UK is going to like shut down for 2 weeks. And I always thought about like, damn, when LeBron retires, like it almost feels like the sports world is going to shut down for 2 weeks, because that's just how impactful he was, and he's been around for so long. But I also, as much as I would love to see that farewell tour, if this health thing is like legitimately potentially barring him from safely playing the game of basketball, I also would rather he just have a heartfelt announcement, have your press conference that's got every journalist in the world there, and do it that way, than force another season that could potentially be your farewell tour and the whole world watches you tear your ACL or ruin your knee or do something like that, where like that's not the send-off that LeBron deserves.
Because like I think a lot of people, when you talk about farewell tours just lightly, you just assume, like, maybe not assume, but you expect like okay, Bron plays one more year, averages 28, 8 and 8 again or whatever, and they go deep in the playoffs. Maybe they win a chip. So many things have to go right for that to happen.
Right.
Yeah. He has to be healthy, first of all. Also, I don't think this would happen because it hasn't, and it's been a long career. Like, maybe there's not, because really Bron is just like that. But there has to be an age point where you drop off a little bit. And I'd totally rather him end on a season, even though playoffs was disappointing, like regular season statistics, as good as ever. I'd rather him end on that than like next year it's like even like 22, 4 and 6, you know, which isn't bad, but it's like for LeBron that's like it would I think it's just like by leaving on top there's so much less criticism that can be made. And if you come back and even just it's stupid, but this is how like he will be treated, especially by NBA, social media, and media in general. If you were to come back and just drop in like averages by like 4 points a game, couple rebounds, couple assists, people are gonna remember that forever, and they're gonna be like, well, they're gonna be like Wash King, whatever, this and that, and that's stupid. But I just think it makes so much sense for him. Leave on top. Don't make the mistakes that other NBA players did, where they stuck it out for a few more years. Their last years are kind of ugly. It's just it's honestly full of knee injuries.
Yeah.
Kobe, Vince Carter,
Paul Pierce.
Like, just save your knees, get out of it. Just go sip some wine, have your Taco Tuesdays, bro. I think the best thing for Bron would be to retire.
A lot of decisions looming for the Los Angeles Lakers, I think, to Jack's point, too. With Kobe, the Lakers were in the midst of one of their worst stretches in their franchise's history.
They won like 20-something games. They went like 29 and 63 or something like that.
The Lakers now are in much more of a position to compete for a title.
That
Not this
math
year.
doesn't math.
It's going to wait until next year. Let's talk about another series now. Game 7. Let's get into those 2 Game 7s. Rockets, Warriors. Warriors in a very, very familiar spot. Up 3-1. They've lost the last 2, and here we are at Game 7. This has been a very fun series. Personally, we'll talk about it in just a minute. I am partial to the Rockets-Nuggets series. I think that's been my favorite series so far. But this is great. This is a battle of the seasoned vets with 4 rings against the up-and-comers and the high flyers of the Houston Rockets. Pun absolutely intended. And the Houston Rockets are very fun. They've been fun all of this year, watching their rebuild take full form after the Harden, Chris Paul, Dwight Howard era came to a conclusion. And then Harden left for good. The Rockets have fully rebranded themselves and are now high atop the Western Conference, not quite ahead of the OKC Thunder, but still a very exciting team nonetheless. Getting a lot of contributions from all across the board as well. Obviously, their young guys in Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, and Amen Thompson have been very solid. But Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, hey, even Jabari Smith to throw into the young guys. This is a very good young team. Steven Adams also had 17 off the bench last night.
Awesome.
That's big-time numbers from the enforcer. This Rockets team is interesting. This is a very interesting series. Where does it go for Game 7, though?
This one I'm really biting my nails about because the Warriors had the Rockets right where they wanted them. Like they were in Oakland. All they had to do was just hang on, win one game, not have to play in a stressful Game 7 on the road. And now we're here. I think over the last few games, the one thing that stood out to me, I feel like the Houston has been outworking Golden State. I feel like every time they would pan the camera over to Golden State's side of the court, like even on the bench, like you would see Curry, Draymond, like you'd see those guys, and like they'd look exhausted. Like you can tell that the depth of Houston is getting to the Warriors. I also think Fred VanVleet has been absolutely out of his mind, he's been really I think the X factor for the Rockets in this series. But I think if the Warriors are to win Game 7, it's going to come down to the way that they played in the first few games of this series, where every time Houston went on a run or had a big shot, Golden State had an almost immediate response. They won those first few games of the series because of the clutch factor. That's what they were able to do. Curry was out of his mind. Even Draymond Green was playing his role. Jimmy Butler was, I think Butler, we watched one of the early games of the series, Butler had 38.
Yeah.
And
Curry had like 30-something.
Yeah,
crazy.
It was every time, because Houston is explosive, they're fast, they're physical, and they're really hard to contain. So I think anytime when the Warriors saw their most success was when they were able to respond, and that's the only way I think they're able to win tomorrow night if they want to move on here.
This series should be over.
It should be.
Yeah, it really should be.
It really should be. But I will say, like, nonetheless, the Warriors got Jimmy Butler for a reason. And you have Curry and Jimmy Butler. It's a Game 7 of the first round. I'm not overthinking it. You go out there, you play your brand, and you win this game. Like, the Warriors will win this Game 7. They need to win this Game 7, barring a Jalen Green 40 piece.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like the only. I think that's really the only way. Not the only way the Rockets win, but like the Rockets are not in a good spot.
I was to say
as like good as much momentum that the Rockets have. You're in a Game 7 against the greatest shooter in history and perhaps the greatest playoff riser ever.
Yeah.
In Jimmy Butler. Rockets are not in a good spot. And they've been, as a team, pretty consistent. The only, like, individually, they've been inconsistent. Jalen Green had one good game.
I'll say he dropped 38 in Game 2, and then you haven't really heard
Disappeared.
that much else.
Yeah. Fred VanVleet has a couple good games where he's hitting his threes. Besides that, like, you're not getting consistent high production from just about anyone. So you really need one of them to have a big night, and I can't expect that from any singular guy.
7, 38, 9, 8, 11, and 12.
Crazy.
Point
He had
totals
7
in Game 1. Yeah. 7, 38, 9, 8, 11, and 12. He had 12 last night. That was Jalen Green, averaging 14, 5, and 3. Not having a great series whatsoever. So if he does explode, the Rockets will win. But I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Still a young team. Promising team. Don't think it's their year, personally. The Warriors, as we've been saying, should have had this series wrapped up probably 2 games ago. Rockets forcing their hand just a little bit. Very exciting series, though. Let's shift now and talk about our last NBA thing of the day. Clippers, Nuggets, my favorite series. Been really back and forth. Clippers take a 2-1 lead. Nuggets storm right back, win the next 2, up 3-2. Clippers squeeze out a Game 6 victory. We are in Game 7 now. It's been really fun watching Kawhi Leonard and James Harden play. James Harden has gone through a whirlwind of 1s and 2s and big 3s over the last 5 years. Probably even longer than that. And I think this is one of my favorites for James Harden. Him and Kawhi look so comfortable together. They play different brands of basketball. One thing that was not working out with James Harden in a lot of the places that he went is that he would go to a place with someone who was already your 25-point per game guy. It's very hard for two of those kinds of players to coexist with one another.
Totally.
Kawhi can do that, but he can also do more and still give you 20. He doesn't have to give you 20 and he'll still have a great game. You want Harden scoring 25, 30, 35 plus a game. That's your guy. When I went to Clippers-Knicks the end of the season, Harden, Kawhi was one of my favorite things to watch on a basketball court. It just was. The way that they moved and spaced the floor. Get a lot of help, too. Norman Powell's been really, really solid for them all year long. Chris Dunn played well in that game as well. Zubac has been one of the best big men in basketball, for sure. This, to me, could go either way, though. I think it will go the Clippers' way, personally. But it once again, they had the same exact record. They were both 50 and 32 this year. So I think it will go the Clippers' way, but we'll just wait and see. It could go either way.
I think it will, too. I think, to your point, I think it's very important to point out that, yes, Kawhi Leonard and James Harden play different games, but they play different styles at the same tempo, which I think is what is really important for the Clippers. They have gelled so well, and it's been so fun watching them because I don't even want to use the term resurgence towards two like all-timers like that.
I think it's fair.
But it's made me like reminiscent of the younger versions of themselves. Like they have played at I think a noticeably higher level since joining forces than the prior seasons before that. I have been very impressed with what I've seen from both sides in this series. I think this has probably been the most fun series to watch. I also think it's been very impressive because even though he's still been very statistically efficient and has still been important to the Nuggets' success, I think it's been very interesting to see the way that Batum and Zubac have sort of broken up the job of trying to contain Nikola Jokic. And I think there's been points in games, like pivotal points in games, where they've done a good job of that and trying to sort of divvy up that task because it's not an easy one. I think it's nice having two guys at that position, especially Batum, who can play defense at multiple different positions. But having those two guys together in tandem to try to take down a force like Nikola Jokic, I think is incredibly valuable. And I think they've done a decent job at that. I think this is going to be a phenomenal Game 7. I do have the Clippers pulling it off, but I've been this has been a fun series to watch.
I love that you brought up Nick Batum. I love that. I'm sure we're all familiar with that lyric.
Yeah.
Fourth quarter. Why is Batum in?
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why. This series is showing partially why. I love Nick Batum. Nick Batum does not get enough credit.
No.
Because he's
Great
old.
in fantasy basketball. Can play every position.
Every position.
So
You can
French.
Put him anywhere in the. Oh yeah, so French.
He's so French.
So French. What I love about Nick Batum, and I don't think people realize how hard the shots are that he's taking. They appear to just be corner threes. They're not. A little demonstration here. They're not.
Please.
They're not. Set your feet, ball up, at your waist all the way through. It's using your height, catch. You don't even go down. It's catch and up.
It's just the dictionary definition of catch and shoot.
It's like that shot, hitting that at a high clip is so ridiculous. That's so ridiculously hard, and he's been doing it for years.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
That's why he's That's why he's in. That's why the heck Nick Batum's in fourth quarter.
That's why he's playing ball, man.
That's why he's playing ball. That's why he's still here. He's a great little bench piece. I love that.
I would love to keep going on this, but we are on a little bit of a time crunch. We have to get everything in on this show.
Sure.
And this is where our basketball segment is unfortunately going to have to conclude. We have to run a little station ID.
Batum, you belong in the fourth quarter.
Identify the station. Identify that Nick Batum has the catch and shoot in the bag better than anyone else.
Fries in the bag.
When we get back, though,
put him there.
A little baseball. Yes. Talk a little baseball. Heading in to May, big month of April on both boroughs in Queens and New York. Around the league, though, we'll take you around the league.
You're listening to WFUV New York.
I cannot believe that we are already approaching the final half hour of this show. It is absolutely flown by, but that's exactly what I was expecting with a cast as phenomenal as this one. Welcome back to One on One, New York's longest-running sports call-in show. I am Jack Warner. I am joined alongside by Nick Palmer, Will Tallant. We got Lou Orlando behind the boards. You'll probably hear a little bit from him here in this segment as well, talking baseball.
Yeah.
We got Eli Keeler on video production right now. Just did a phenomenal job on basketball. But baseball talk is finally here, and before we do that, we have a very, very, very special Yankees trivia segment. I will pass it to Nick Palmer. Take us the rest of the way. Let's go.
Welcome to Yankees Trivia. That was pretty good. Call in at 718-817-2750 for 2 tickets to the New York Yankees. They will play the Cleveland Guardians on Thursday, June 5th. 2 tickets will be yours if you can answer the following question. We need you to name the last 3 Yankees to wear number 22. The last 3 New York Yankees players to wear the number 22.
That's a great question.
And we'll be talking about some of them later on this segment. To give you a little hint, one more time, the number is 718-817-2750. Call in, give us the right answer. Who were the last 3 Yankees to wear number 22? And you will get yourself 2 tickets to Yankees Cleveland on Thursday, June 5th. Back to you, Jack.
Nicely done, Nick Palmer. Always love when we can give away some Yankee tickets, and please call in 718-817-2750 if you have the answer to that trivia question. It's always great to go to the ballpark for the free 99, so definitely take advantage of that opportunity. But guys, they call New York City the Big Apple, New York, the Empire State. It appears that over the past month in baseball, it's also the city of the Player of the Month, because both the NL Player of the Month and AL Player of the Month for March/April both are from New York. You got Pete Alonso representing the New York Mets in the National League, Aaron Judge representing the New York Yankees in the American League. I do want to start, I think Judge's dominance is obvious, and we will get to that because his numbers are absolutely ridiculous.
Hey, that's a great place to start because he just started off May with a home run.
Did he really?
Wow.
Did he just
Courtesy
hit
of
He
Lou
just hit a
Orlando.
home run.
First inning
So
home
then,
run.
you know what? Let's start with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge going into today, 427 with 10 homers, 32 RBIs, 7 doubles, a triple, 21 walks, 29 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 521 on-base percentage, a 761 slugging percentage, and a 1282 OPS across 31 games to begin the season.
And just to update that after the home run, he's hitting 434 with an 803 slug.
524 on base.
Yeah. It's over
And
half the
now
time.
a 1327 OPS
There
courtesy
we
of
go.
Orlando.
Look
Thank
at-
you for
quick
that
math.
update.
Unreal.
But I feel like we're just casually witnessing history.
Every year.
I think we have been for the
Every
last 5 years with him. It's pretty crazy. He already has accumulated 3 WAR. He's on pace to break Babe Ruth's all-time record in WAR for a single season, which was 14.7. Judge is on pace for 16.5. So to simplify that, Aaron Judge provides 16 more wins to the Yankees when he plays. If he doesn't play, the Yankees are 16 games worse. That's pretty insane that one player has pull like that.
He's remarkable.
Or I was saying, Will and I have been having the conversation. You're watching one of, if not the best right-handed hitters of all time.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
the names you hear, A-Rod and Pujols, Judge's metrics especially, I know some people don't like to hear the weighted runs created plus, but when you take into account the pitching of this era, Aaron Judge just had the best 365-day span of any baseball hitter ever, regardless of handiness, even higher than Bonds. So that's the type of stuff we're talking about.
And one of the most fun things to watch as Aaron Judge's still decently young career has continued to progress is early on when he first starts making a name for himself, it's power hitter, booming home runs. That's the kind of guy he's known to be.
Big old gap between those 2 front teeth.
Exactly. Kind of like, not quite Strahan, but,
Yeah.
But what I think has been super fun to watch as he goes on year by year is turning not just from he didn't just stay a power hitter. He slowly year after year became an impossible out, where everything about his approach just gets better and better and better every season, to where whether he's working you deep into counts, whether he's even having an off day and he still has the ability to take a pitch outside and roll it the other way down the line like he did last night for a double. I saw that, when I walked into the room. He has elevated his game to where you cannot place him into one category as a hitter. In fact, he excels in just about every category there is. And I think that speaks so much more volumes. Yes, the 62 home run season was special. Mm-hmm. Yes, all of that, the power hitting is amazing. Yes, the distance this man can hit a baseball is special, and it's exciting and it's fun to watch. But there's something about the way that he becomes a more complete and more complete hitter season in and season out that I think is just absolutely fascinating to watch.
And I think we saw that a few seasons in when he stopped chasing the slider away, because that was the Judge. I mean, that's
Kryptonite.
what killed him. Yeah. And I Lou, I'm sure you remember watching him for years and early in the Judge years, and you go, he's not going to be able to lay off that breaking ball away. And now he can, and you see his walk rate skyrocket because of it. You see him getting better pitches to hit because of it, because that one weapon is now taken away, and Judge will come up there looking to hit every single time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going. You moved closer to your mic. I thought you were going to chime in. Yeah, no, I think what's also exciting to see, I guess if you're more on the Yankee side of the aisle, is all of the talk in the offseason, the elephant in the room, Juan Soto leaving, a bunch of new players coming in, some of which are maybe past their heyday but still valuable and can still contribute to this team. And you have all sorts of different dialogue, especially because it was Juan Soto staying within the same city, going crosstown to the Mets, signing with the crosstown rival. Mm-hmm. And for Judge to continue to be that backbone where he stayed quiet through that whole process, the Yankees bring in all sorts of new talent to sort of reinforce the offense around him.
And it's worked.
And it's worked so far. And there's still, kinks that are being worked out, but it's still, they're atop the East for a reason. They're going, I think, to continue to be one of the top teams in the American League for the rest of the season. I think it's so much more exciting and powerful for him to have this start to the year off the back of what was just this constant PR nightmare that was the Juan Soto situation.
And how about Goldie when we're talking about that supporting cast, right? I mean, he is an OPS over 900, which is higher than his career OPS, and you're talking about one of the best hitters of our generation, one of the most consistent hitters of our generation, I think, Paul Goldschmidt. Will, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. He's almost, and I'm not, right now, he's protecting Judge just as well as I think Juan Soto did as a Yankee. I'm saying right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that that's going to continue, but having Goldschmidt, Bellinger, Judge, I think is working out so much better than people anticipated.
Bellinger, no. Goldschmidt, yes. Bellinger needs more time to figure it out.
But I think he will.
I agree. I think he will. Goldschmidt is reminding me of DJ from 2019, which I would take.
Oh, I love a DJ from 2019.
As a replacement for Juan Soto in the aggregate. Because you're not going to recreate him. So you have to use the aggregate. Yeah. And Paul Goldschmidt has been exactly that. You can put Goldschmidt anywhere that you want in this lineup. I think that he belongs in the leadoff spot, but right now he needs to be probably behind Judge if Judge is going to get on base at the clip that he's at, because you need someone that's going to be able to drive him in, especially with Jazz going down now, who was already struggling to begin with. So
I hear you with moving Goldie down, former 30 base Steeler.
That's correct.
That's not the case anymore. But hey,
he can still run though.
Yeah, I know, but hey, man, they pay him to get on first base, not to get thrown out at second.
Not to interrupt, but we do have a caller into this segment. I'm very, very excited to introduce him onto the show. We have Brian from Westport, Connecticut. Wow. Brian, what do you got for us? I'm sure you have plenty of Yankee knowledge to drop on us.
What's up, fellas? How are we doing?
Better now you're here.
Yeah, you know what? Likewise. First of all, great crew assembled here today. I know your guys' senior year is winding down, so glad that you guys could get on a crew together and just assembled this stacked roster for this show on Saturday. Regarding Yankees, I know we're talking lineup and such, and everyone talks about the year Judge is having. Goldschmidt's been great. I got to give some credit to my guy Trent Grisham.
Nice.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, see, that gets a nice little ovation from the crowd. He's been excellent, and I've been high on him since last year when nobody was. And last year he was in the shackles playing, behind Alex Verdugo and the guy that's on the Mets now. I'm not even going to say him by name.
Hey, Brian, you remember the "We Want Soto" chants? So foul.
I remember
so foul.
that very
And then he hit a bomb.
Yeah, he hit an absolute bomb. But he's been outstanding, man. I mean, with Bellinger struggling, having him at the top of the lineup has just been so great. Not only with the bat, but that guy can play center field. I'll tell you what.
For sure.
So
Crazy range.
He's been an absolute blast to watch, and he's been better than Soto this year. So that's
statistically,
definitely says something.
For a lot less money too. For a lot cheaper.
For a lot less money. We're not paying that guy $750 million.
Paying him $5.
He'll play for free.
Brian, does
But yeah,
let me ask you, and I know you can't hang your head on and dwell in the past. There's nothing that you can really do about it. But does seeing Trent's success so far this season, which has been very apparent and also impressively consistent, does that make you a little more frustrated with last season and how it's felt like he was now looking back a bit underutilized?
I mean, it's very easy to say that in hindsight, and
Yeah.
I get that. But to me, it just reinforces the point that a guy like Alex Verdugo was just given way too many chances last year, whether it be keeping Dominguez in the minors when he was raking and keeping Grisham on the bench. I know the track record Verdugo has, but listen, this Trent Grisham guy, everyone counted him out, and I just love stories like this where no one was expecting a thing out of him, and he's been Juan Soto and more. So he's been a blast to watch, and that top of the lineup should be a weakness, and it's getting carried by Trent Grisham and Ben Rice. So vibes are good in Yankee land.
Also, just love players that don't wear batting gloves. Matt Carpenter, Trent
Yeah,
Grisham.
dude.
I think it's awesome.
Posada.
The last
Posada.
Yankee that went no batting gloves and had a nice little mustache was one of my favorite Yankees of all time, a guy by the name of Matt Carpenter.
Yeah.
What an absolute treat. So I think it really is just mustache and no gloves. So if any of the Yankee hitters want to find out the secret, just go with that style. That should be mandated.
So,
if I make
All
a
right,
suggestion.
George.
So what I'm hearing is you're bringing facial hair mandates back in, but forcing them to have facial hair.
Wait, hold on.
I'm
a
kidding.
second.
I'm kidding.
Listen, these players are free to do whatever they want, but everyone should just take it under consideration. Go mustache, no gloves, and however you want to do it. I'll let you guys
No,
go.
Brian, real quick.
Yeah.
Lou from behind the board, big fan of your work.
Thank you.
What have you thought of 3 straight scoreless appearances for Devin Williams out of the bullpen, out of the closer's role? What are we saying? What are you thinking?
Listen, this guy has gotten about as much heat of a new Yankee as I can remember. Thrown himself into the fire. You could argue he broke a 100-year tradition by himself with the facial hair thing, and obviously it didn't help that he was awful to start the year. But listen, this guy's nasty. You can't take that away from him. He's a great pitcher, and the first month, I would say, doesn't really reflect how he's going to end up turning out. I think he will be back in the closer role, and these last 3 appearances, scoreless, I mean, last night, he looked pretty good. In Baltimore, he looked pretty good.
Stuff looked good. Stuff looked really good.
I can agree. I think it's Weave's job to lose, and until Weave loses that job, it's going to be his.
Well,
Yeah, but I think to just jump in here, like Weaver should be like a better 8th inning guy, and Devin Williams has like the closer knockout stuff. Like I know Weaver's been excellent, but I don't know. Something about me is like hesitant to like keep him in that role long term, just given like his long term track record. I don't know. That's just me. I know that's not a popular opinion. I love Weaver, but I think like long term he's best slotted for the 8th inning. That's just me though.
Brian, it's always a pleasure to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for calling in. We always love when you can add to the show.
You guys got a mixed bag lined up, Sporkle.
Oh, we got a Sporkle lined up,
Yes,
buddy.
we do.
We're breaking barriers on this show.
Oh,
really
yeah.
just paving the way for future generations. So
That's
proud
what it's
of
all
you
about,
guys.
man.
You
That's
guys
what it's all about.
have fun the rest of the way, and big fan. I'll hang up and listen.
Well, I would love to jump back into the talk, but actually we have back-to-back callers on the line.
Whoa.
This one, and this one's special because some of you are meeting her for the first time. My sister, Catherine Warner, is on the line.
Warner.
Kat, can you hear me? How are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good to hear from you. What's going on?
Nothing. We're just in the car on the way to Ava's dance competition, but I had some questions for you guys.
Oh, we're
Fire
all
away.
ears. Let's go.
Fantastic.
Perfect. Well, long-time listener, first-time caller, but I mean, first I have to echo Brian's sentiment. I mean, it's a stacked lineup in the booth today. We're loving listening. Love to all the boys. We also have Tim and Karen here. They're listening in. But while we're on the topic of the Yankees, I want to get in to the nitty-gritty. Us Warners are Red Sox fans, and we're loyal to Fenway. But I have to admit the atmosphere at Yankee Stadium is electric. So I'm wondering what everyone's favorite treat to get at the game is.
That's a great
I'm
question.
partial to the margarita. I love the
Love that.
margarita
That's
that
a great
comes in a
take,
little
Kat.
cup with the Yankee hat, but I also love the Oatly soft serve for us milk-sensitive folks. So just wondering where you guys stand, chicken buckets, hot dogs.
She has not been to a game this year?
Not this year yet, no.
Okay, my first recommendation would be the new tiramisu. It is absolutely fantastic. And
What
you
I've
like
been
things
hearing.
in helmets, and it comes in a helmet. So
I'm gonna have to go grub tub combo. It's never done me wrong.
Clinical.
You get the souvenir soda with a bowl that's attached on top of it with chicken and fries. You don't have to carry stuff around in two hands. It's all right there, and
It's
you
America,
just
man.
it can't get more American than that. I love it. I love enjoying my grub tub combo while watching two inebriated Yankee fans fight each other and not fans of the opposing team in the bleachers and get ejected from the game. Yeah, I would go with that. Bill, what do you think?
I don't know if it's still at the stadium, but the Big Mac Buffalo Chicken Ranch mac and cheese.
Oh, Bill, it still is. I think it is. I'm pretty
That's
sure
the
it still
one.
is.
That
It's
sounds
right.
amazing.
It's right by
Good
the press
Lord.
box too.
It's amazing. That's a must get.
Lou?
Every single time.
I would now listen. It's a little expensive. I think a little too expensive. But Bill and I have had this before. We did a food review about it. The 99 burger with the Wagyu beef is pretty. Listen, it's gonna cost you like $22,
But
they
the
do a
onions,
nice job with it.
the caramelized
The
onions.
onion jam and
Absolutely.
the caramelized onion, very very good. Would
there for
recommend
it all.
I will say, Kat, you did put me on one of the games we went to a couple summers ago because I'm more fortunate in my body's ability to process milk, and so I don't usually go out of my way for oat products. You let me try the Oatly soft serve,
You
and
liked
I
it?
was very impressed.
wow.
Oh, it's damn good.
I've always been tempted by the giant milkshakes that have like the Oreos and all the snacks
Oh my
in. I've
God.
never
Yeah.
gone that route,
Yeah,
but I've
With the
seen them from
straws.
afar and I have yearned.
It's certainly worth yearning for.
for sure.
Awesome. Well, love to the boys.
a great
Have a great show today. Just wanted to pop by and say hi.
Yes, love
Thanks
you
for
guys so
stopping in.
much. Thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate it.
Love to the whole Warner family.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys. See you soon at graduation.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, see you there. That was awesome.
great.
Wonderful.
That was sweet.
Wonderful.
So, a lot of Yankee time. Really want to fly through this real quick. Let's hop on the 7, go to Queens. The other player of the month representing the National League is Pete Alonso.
Absolutely.
March/April, 343 batting average. I'll just give you the full stat. 343, 475, 657. 7 homers, 11 doubles, 28 ribbies. A huge month to open the season, especially in a prove-it year. He's fresh off that 2-year, $54 million contract with obviously the opt-out possible after one season. He's gotten better in practically every facet. He's walking more than he strikes out now, at least to start the season. He's getting on base a hell of a lot more. He's driving in a hell of a lot more runs.
Yeah.
And what's even crazier to think about is this was not who you anticipated going into the season was going to be firepowering the Mets offense.
Were you not worried last year?
No. I mean, well, no, I was. I
Right.
absolutely
And
was.
I'm sure Mets fans were too.
Right.
You're thinking, oh, God, we're witnessing the decline of Pete Alonso at the exact worst time. But here he comes, and he's just raking.
And someone brought this up that Vladdy's gone and signed his $500 million contract. Pete Alonso is going to be the top first baseman on the market. And obviously, it's only 1 month. if he keeps this up, and he's a little bit older than Vladdy, he is going to get the monster deal he was looking for this offseason.
Yeah. And even if he's still older than Vladdy, he's still young. Like he came up young.
30.
Yeah, he's 30 years old. Like he's still got, barring good health, he's still playing at this rate. He still probably has another at least between 5 and 10 years in the tank. Like who knows? Again, it all comes down to health and how well he performs. But that's an enormous start to the season, especially when you look at how great the Mets have been performing, but how remarkably quiet Juan Soto has been. And you really, Alonso was the first bat to wake up. Like he was from the jump raking. Lindor needed a few games to open up. Nimmo hasn't really heated up until recently, and now he's hitting the cover off the ball the last week and a half or so.
Yeah.
So you look at Alonso, who I've always cited back to is that really has the potential to be your born a Met, die a Met, look back on when he retires as that's our guy, was really special to this franchise type guy.
Yeah.
Going through a bit of a rut the last couple seasons, to see him back in this position, all you can hope is that he keeps up this consistency, because really he makes this team so much more dangerous. Coming off of last season, you almost forgot about him because it was a quiet year. And even then he still hit for power. He almost hit 30 home runs. So you see this output that he has now this early into the season. The sky is the limit for this Mets offense if he's performing at this level.
Hitting 345, man. Pete Alonso hitting 345 should scare anybody.
Yeah, they don't even need Soto to. They can let him take all the time he needs to really get acclimated into his new setting. I mean, they're the best team in baseball. There's no denying that. Francisco Lindor has been playing really well also. So with Pete Alonso, though, one thing that scares me for a contract with him is, I think, the likelihood of a sharper decline than a Vladimir Guerrero. And what I mean by that is, yeah, he's 30, but you give him an 8-year deal, he's done at 38. How many years of that contract are you getting this kind of production out of Pete Alonso? I don't know. I have no baseball analysis to back that. He just has that kind of written on him. That is not to say that he won't be good, but the Mets have to play their hand here with Pete Alonso. Obviously, this year you have him. You hope that he keeps playing well. Yeah. He will get a big contract. He will not get Vladdy money, but he will get a lot of money if he continues to play this well. But he reminds me a lot of Pujols when he was a free agent. And Pujols goes to the Angels, he puts together a few good seasons, and then after that it was pretty much done. Alonso kind of has those tendencies written on his slash lines.
Small little update for Mets fans. The game was postponed today in St. Louis.
Yes. So, yeah.
Doubleheader tomorrow.
Rough day for Lou Orlando wearing his St. Louis jersey. The Mets St. Louis game has been postponed due to weather, but the jersey still rocks. But
awesome.
Another thing, just quickly, just to kind of also throw some appreciation to, Pete Alonso, noticeably phenomenal with the gloves.
Yes,
so far.
his defense has been really solid.
Fantastic defensive first base, and it comes down to making the easy plays, but also making. I got to cover the game the other night against the Diamondbacks, where he in the first 2 innings makes 2 diving plays in the infield that stop easy for sure base hits.
Yeah.
It's clear that defense was more of a focus in the offseason for him. You can tell that he wanted to be more of a well-rounded player this season. And he was also an underrated defensive first baseman last season, too.
Yeah.
I think he's so known as being an explosive power hitter that you kind of forget the significance of that defense. But I said last season, and I will continue to say, that he is one of the most underrated defensive first basemen in the league, if not the most underrated defensive first baseman in the league.
He's only gotten better, too.
Yeah.
He was pretty bad early on, and each
sure.
year he's gotten so much better.
Yeah.
I really wanted the Yankees to make a run for him after they lost Soto last year, just to fill that hole. I'll obviously take Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt's been great, and the commitment for Alonso was kind of up in the air. What the Mets got was a great deal. And if you're Pete Alonso, you just got to keep playing the way that you're playing, man, because last year you probably would have hoped that you played a little bit more like 23, even 2019 Alonso, but still really a solid season. And this year only getting better, definitely the focal point of that offense. They just need him to stay consistent on offense, kind of like what he was in his rookie year. Because like I was saying before, You can see that with Alonso sometimes, where he's got these huge peaks and valleys, and those peaks are like Everest. And those valleys can be like massive floods. But if he stays on that peak this whole year, which he has the tools to do so, the Mets are going to be just fine, and they've been fine for the entirety of the beginning of the season. So he's turned into more of a complete baseball player. He's very fun to watch.
Don't worry. He'll play like this the rest of the season. He'll shoot his value through the roof, and then the Dodgers will magically be able to afford him when he.
We don't want him.
I'm just kidding. I had to throw that jab at you.
He's like, but over Freddie Freeman. I mean, yeah,
Freddie
he
play
might
third.
be a little bit better. Freddie will play third. That's true. Max Muncy can't hit anything right now. He actually wears glasses now because he just got diagnosed with astigmatism, which is what Kike Hernandez has. So
Clearly
maybe
not bothering Kike.
Maybe that'll fix him. And just to rage bait you, before we move on from the Mets, 20 of the Mets' 33 games have been against teams under 500.
Oh no, I have seen that. You're not rage baiting me, bro.
Have seen that.
I just covered it.
I'm rage baiting the guys.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I just covered the team.
Yeah.
Their pitching to me when they get into those situations is what concerns me.
Tyler McGill's been great.
He's been great, but is their pitching going to be able to hold up against stronger teams?
Yeah, when Mania comes back, though, I feel pretty good about that.
Peterson
when he comes back.
has been nails. Peterson has been really
Montas is a gigantic question mark.
I
It's been a gigantic question mark for about 3 seasons now.
Jose Butto looks good.
But Mania, they can get the same Mania that they got last year, and this Mets team is fun.
Edwin Diaz is a heart attack.
And
every
Soto
time he
will
comes out.
turn around too. It's not like he's been off to this god awful
I was gonna
start.
say, anyone thinking that Soto is going to stay at this rate of performance, you just need to.
It's been mashing left-handed
You
pitching.
need to take a lap. You're
Mets
all
offense
set,
is very.
All right, well, how about
very
this?
Defined.
For underrated players, we're just going to make this really quick for a fun segment. Give me one player that you need to apologize to.
In the league in general.
In the league in general. Give me one player that you did not give the flowers that they need.
Hold that thought
We
for
can hold
1
that.
second. We're going to hold it. We're going to bounce it to the next segment.
Cool.
We're going to send it to a quick break.
Good.
When we come back, we have a fun final underrated player / Sporkle / send-off segment.
Stew
Plenty
on it.
for you. Stay with us. You're listening to One on One.
Hey guys, Grace McCarran here with Jack Warner.
And we're two of your hosts for Nosebleeds, WFUV's one and only baseball podcast.
We'll keep you in the loop on all tri-state news with the Yankees and Mets,
as well as the biggest headlines from around the MLB.
Catch weekly episodes of Nosebleeds on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Take a trip around the bases with Nosebleeds on WFUV Sports.
What's up, everyone? Last 10 minutes of the show. Been a blast. Lou Orlando, Nick Palmer, Jack Warner, as promised. Gonna end the show in a fun way, because we're a fun crew. This is like when you leave the kids with the uncles. We're a fun crew. Maybe a little fun. I don't know.
Yep.
Sure.
The fun uncle.
The fun uncles.
Yeah.
We're the fun uncles.
Oh,
All of us. All 5 of us.
We're the Funkles.
You met my fun uncle at spring break.
Big fan of him. Has a great
JB.
life. Shout out Charleston. So we figure we'll do a little sporkle. And the prompt for this one, and we'll love to get the guys in the back in on this as well, everyone chiming in. The last Big Four MVP for each major city. So it can be MLB, NFL, NHL, or NBA. I feel like we all got the quiz up. 7-minute timer. I just started it. I feel like, again, there's 40 different cities. We don't have to go in order. We can just start throwing out names for big cities if you guys have been.
Sure.
If you guys have one.
Aaron Judge, New York.
Boom.
Mookie Betts, Boston.
Boom.
Shohei Ohtani, Los Angeles.
I'm gonna go Ronald Acuna, Atlanta.
I'm gonna go Josh Allen, Buffalo.
Let's do it. Pat Mahomes, Kansas City.
Pat Mahomes.
I don't know why this one comes to mind. Give me Cam Newton for Charlotte.
Let's do it.
Really?
There he is.
Wow.
What cities do we have still?
We got a lot, but Baltimore, Boston, New England.
Lamar.
Oh,
right?
we got Boston.
Did Lamar win one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There he
that's
is.
right.
There's Lamar.
Okay.
Cincy, Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Oh.
Oh, is it? Who am I missing?
Who could have in Cincinnati?
Joey Votto.
Joey Votto.
Oh wow.
That's right. Joe Burrow hasn't won
That's
MVP. Denver, Jokic. No.
Would Seattle be? Did Russell Wilson win an MVP? Any Legion of Boom guy?
Edmonton, Connor McDavid.
That's right.
Yeah, that's cake.
Also, I think
Eli Keeler said Embiid.
Embiid and McKinnon is Denver, Colorado
Yeah.
Avalanche.
Very
We
nice.
got Embiid. That's very nice. 5:36 left on my quiz here.
Did-
7 minutes
I've
left.
got
on
it.
the
I'm
show.
trying. I'm just trying to think of some of the more obscure cities like Phoenix. Like, did Kurt
Austin Matthews,
did,
Toronto.
Oh, did Larry Fitzgerald? Nah, wide receivers don't usually win the MVP.
Right?
What cities
Austin
do we have
Matthews,
left?
Toronto.
Austin. Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
What'd you say back there, Will?
What cities do we have left?
Got a couple bit.
Many.
Houston, Green Bay. We should get. That's Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit, Dallas,
Houston's got to be Altuve.
Cleveland. Could it be
Altuve
Harden?
is not.
When's the last time Harden won an MVP?
It's Harden.
It's Harden.
No, it is Harden. Yeah.
Detroit. Miggy
Sidney Crosby, Pittsburgh.
There we go.
was Miggy Detroit or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, bet.
Portland, Lillard won, right? Did he not?
No.
Is that Akeem? Is that all going all the way back to?
San Antonio, Tim Duncan.
Oh, or was it Kawhi?
Tim Duncan.
Oh yeah, I don't know if Kawhi won.
Tim Duncan.
Is
Washington's an interesting one. That should be Ovi.
Is
Uh,
Portland Bill Walton?
It's not.
Ooh, is Portland Bill Walton?
It is.
Good poll, Will.
1978, Bill.
Would Miami be like LeBron or D Wade or
Stanton. Giancarlo
Oh,
Stanton.
yeah.
Nice job.
Milwaukee, that's Yelich.
Eli said we got Barkley.
It's
for
not
Tim?
Oh,
Yelich.
it's not. That's right, because
Or
Milwaukee's
is it
Giannis.
Steve Nash? Bang.
Nash. And then we got to get, I can't believe I whiffed on Giannis.
Oh yeah.
Got caught up in the
What are we left
baseball
with?
of it
What
all.
other cities are we missing?
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Mauer?
Could be.
I was going
Mauer.
to say, has anyone
Joe
on
Mauer.
the Wolves won since?
Not Ant.
Not
Montreal. Who's the last half?
Carey
to win?
Price.
Carey Price.
Price.
Should be.
Nashville. Nashville's tricky.
Nashville is tricky.
Because
Did we get-
did
did we-
Pecorino ever? Goalies don't win.
Did we get Chicago?
St. Louis, Paul Goldschmidt.
Did you say D Rose?
How about that?
Ooh,
How about
D Rose
little
might
Goldie?
be Chicago.
D Rose is not Chicago.
Goldschmidt could be St. Louis.
Goldschmidt is St. Louis.
We said no to Mauer.
Rizzo, Tucker, not Tucker. Rizzo,
Bryant.
Bryant.
KB.
Um,
no.
OKC, Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
maybe
He
we've
sure
already
is.
done it.
I got 3 minutes left on mine.
That's
We
what I've
still got Oakland. We still got San
Would it be
Fran.
Curry?
Steve Nash for Phoenix.
We got Curry for Oakland.
Okay.
We got Nash for Phoenix.
good.
Salt Lake City.
Um,
That's basically just Utah. I think the Jazz are the only one there.
Karl Malone.
Yeah, because no member of the Utah.
Yeah, it's
Hockey
got to be
Club,
Karl
right?
Malone.
San Diego. Is that Ken Caminiti? Is he their last one?
Tony Gwynn.
It's not Ken Caminiti.
It's not.
Is it Gwen?
No.
No, because Caminiti would have been before.
Philip
Gwen.
Caminiti was 98.
Did Philip Rivers win an
It's
MVP?
not Rivers, no.
No.
Denver?
Tomlinson, LT.
Yeah.
You got Peyton Manning?
Nice. So what are we missing, Lou?
We have Peyton now. We got him now.
Courtesy of Eli.
Final 2 minutes.
San Diego. Not Machado.
It was Tomlinson. It was LaDainian Tomlinson.
So who do we got? Who do we got?
We got. I'm looking at the big one. We got San Fran left. We got Seattle left.
Is Minneapolis
Posey?
It is Posey.
Is Minneapolis? Did we get Minneapolis yet?
We didn't. There's someone after
Did Adrian
Maurer.
Peterson win an MVP?
Oh, he totally did. 2012.
Yep. Okay.
Dang.
Yep.
What do we got, Lou?
Who?
Woo.
We
Oh,
got
Dallas.
let's
Dallas.
do
Eli says
Vancouver. That's
Dallas.
one of
What
the
do we
Sedin brothers.
Oh yeah, Dallas.
Sedin.
Dallas. No, Dak didn't win one. No.
How do you spell Sedin?
Sedin.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so big cities we got left. We got Chicago. We got Cleveland. We got Dallas.
Chicago's got to be Chris Bryant.
It's not.
Wow. Really?
There's someone after.
Chicago.
Interesting.
Patrick
Jose
Kane.
Abreu.
Patrick Kane.
2020
Jose Abreu, 2020 MVP.
Okay,
Nicely
okay.
done.
Help me out. So San Jose. Who's the last Sharks MVP? Is it Thornton? Is it Pavelski?
It's not Burns.
Barkley Goodrow.
It's Joe Thornton, 2006.
Wow, nicely done. All right, what are we missing?
Washington. John Wall never won MVP.
No.
DC or
Bryce Harper.
Yeah, Washington, DC.
Bryce Harper.
Nice.
Tampa Bay.
Evan Longoria.
I think it's Kucherov.
Vasil. Yeah.
Yeah, Skucherov.
I got 36 of 40.
How much time
Seattle.
do we have left?
Ichiro's not the last one there, is he?
No.
No.
think so. You can try it.
King Felix.
No.
Felix never won MVP.
No, yeah, he didn't win
He won a
MVP.
Cy Young.
It's not like Russell Wilson or anything.
Did Durant win an MVP when he was with the Sonics? Did someone win the Sonics after 2001?
What else are we missing?
Dallas is a big one. I got 40 seconds left.
Richard
How much
Sherman?
is left on the official one in the big room in the board?
We also got. It's also 150.
35. Cleveland, is that just Jim Brown? Who's else is in Cleveland?
Cleveland.
I think
Is
we're
it
gonna
LeBron?
strike out
Is
of
it LeBron?
Nashville.
Is it LeBron?
It's not LeBron.
What?
I don't think so.
It
yes,
is
it is.
LeBron.
Yes, it is.
I got-
I kept typing LeBron instead of James.
We got 3 left. We got Dallas, Nashville, Seattle. Seattle is gonna pain me.
Josh Hamilton, Dallas.
You count Arlington? I guess. Yeah.
Oh,
What a
bang!
pull.
At the
Nice.
buzzer.
Well
Are we
done.
done? What's the time on the big one?
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Seattle, shoot away. I guess. Brett
I
Boone.
can't think of any Mariners. Is it
Cam
time?
Chancellor.
Who
Richard
were
Sherman.
the 2 that we missed?
So I got him up here. The 2 we missed for Nashville. Gotta think about the Tennessee Titans. Steve McNair. Got a minute left on the show.
All right.
Sean Alexander for the Seahawks. So I think that does it. That's all. I've always wanted to do a Sporkle
We
on
killed
the
that.
show.
Definitely beat the average.
Final 20 seconds left. I just want to thank you all. It's been a great 4-year run.
Love you,
My
boys.
roommates, Eli Keeler, Jack Warner, Will Tallant, an honorary roommate, and Nick Palmer, you've been with us the whole way through. That'll do it for our show. Bobby Chaffardini is the director of FUV, and of course, One-on-One, always a production of WFUV Sports. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.